Thank you and good afternoon. Today, June 7th, we have the Committee on Streets and Services. Councilmember Thomas will be joining us shortly. I'm Councilmember Mark Squillen, Vice Chair. We would now like to start the meeting. Good afternoon. I understand that the state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notice that are published in the Daily News, the Inquirer, and the Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. Mr. Maynor, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members, please mention your name and whether you're present.
Chair Squilla. You're
Yes.
on mute, Chair. Councilmember Bass. Councilmember O.
Good afternoon. I'm present.
Thank you, Councilmember O. Councilmember Brooks. Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Maynor. A quorum of the committee is present, and the hearing is now called to order. This is a public hearing on the Committee of Streets and Services regarding bills number 220188, 220189, 220243, 220245, 220246, 220247, 220379, 220380, 220381, 220382, 220420, 220453, 220488, 220489, 220490, 220492, 220494, 220495, 220500, 220501, 220502, 220503, 220504, 220505, 220512, 220513, 220514, 220515, 220516, 220517, 220518, 220519, 220520, 220523, 220527, and 220528. Mr. Maynor, would you please read the titles of these bills?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The first, we have Bill 220188, an ordinance authorizing the striking from City Plan number 269 and abandonment of a portion of a certain right-of-way for drainage purposes and water main purposes in the vicinity of the northwesterly side of Civic Center Boulevard, northeast of Osler Circle, under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220189, an ordinance amending Section 11-505 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Sidewalk Paving and Other Improvements by Property Owners, to authorize the Streets Department to collect fees for costs incurred in reviewing plans for and constructing ADA-compliant sidewalks, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220243, an ordinance amending Chapter 10-700 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Refuse and Littering, by adding new definition of the third-party administrators and revising Section 10-718 to sanction third-party administrators as enforcers of illegal dumping violations, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220245, an ordinance amending Chapter 12-900 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Parking Regulations and Penalties, by regulating on-street parking of unpermitted semi-trailers and truck trailers, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220246, an ordinance amending Chapter 12-400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Towing and Immobilizing of Parked or Abandoned Vehicles by adding new regulations for the towing and storage of illegally parked semi-trailer and truck tractors, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220247, an ordinance amending Chapter 12-800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Administrative Adjudication of Parking Violations by establishing monetary penalties for on-street parking of semi-trailers and truck tractors, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220379, an ordinance amending Chapter 10700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Refuse and Littering to further define short dumping and related violations and to revise penalties and remedies related to such offenses, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220380, an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Bingham Street and Comley Street. Bill 220381, an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Clearview Street and North Broad Street. Bill 220382, an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Lawrence Street and Somerville Avenue, Ashdale Street and North 2nd Street, Fairhill Street and Tabor Road, Chew Avenue and North 5th Street, Howard Street and Fisher Avenue, Tabor Road and North 5th Street, Elkins Street and North 7th Street, Somerville Avenue and North 4th Street. Bill 220420, an ordinance amending Section 12701 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Designation of Bicycle Lanes to authorize bicycle lanes on Lindbergh Boulevard between 58th Street and 65th Street, and making associated changes to lanes of travel within the same limits, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220453, an ordinance amending Section 12701 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Designation of Bicycle Lanes to authorize a bicycle lane on West Market Street from 20th Street to 23rd Street, and making associated changes to travel lanes and parking regulations within the same limits, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220488, an ordinance establishing no truck parking regulations near various locations, including recreation centers, libraries, parks, and schools in the 9th Council District, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220489, an ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill number 180560, approved July 10, 2018, entitled An Ordinance Authorizing the Revision of Lines and Grades on a Portion of City Plan number 250 by striking from the city plan and vacating the legally open portion of Montour Street from Adams Avenue to Fulcrod Street under certain terms and conditions by extending the period for compliance with the terms and conditions stated therein. Bill 220490, an ordinance authorizing encroachments in the nature of a pedestrian underpass in the vicinity of 5700-30 City Avenue under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220492, an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 375 by placing on the City Plan a certain portion of 67th Street, previously stricken from the City Plan, extending southeastwardly from the present terminus of 67th Street, southeast to Essington Avenue to connect with a presently disconnected portion of 67th Street, which extends further southeastwardly to the Schuylkill River, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220494, an ordinance authorizing the striking from City Plan number 97 and abandoning of a right-of-way for drainage purposes and water main purposes in the vicinity of east of Broad Street and extending from Washington Avenue to Carpenter Street, and a right-of-way for gas main purposes located in the vicinity of north of Washington Avenue and extending from 13th Street westwardly to a terminus under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220495, an ordinance amending Section 12701 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Designation of Bicycle Lanes to authorize a bicycle lane on Grays Ferry Avenue from 34th Street to Washington Avenue and making associated changes to parking regulations within the same limits, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220500, an ordinance authorizing an existing bulk front addition at 401-407 East Wyoming Avenue, Philadelphia, PA 19120, under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220501, an ordinance delegating to the Philadelphia Streets Department the authority to regulate the direction of movement of traffic and establishing parking regulations on certain streets within the bounded area of Wyoming Avenue to 9th Street to Pike Street to Rising Sun Avenue, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220502, an ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on Gillum Street between Mulberry Street and Tackawanna Street, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220503, An ordinance regulating the direction of movement of traffic on Meadow Street between Paul Street and Frankfurt Avenue, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220504, an ordinance amending Section 12-2700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Permit Parking Districts by amending the boundaries for certain permit parking districts, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220505, an ordinance amending Chapter 12-3000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use of an Automated Red Light Enforcement System to prevent red light violations by authorizing the installation of red light enforcement systems at the intersection of Front Street and Hunting Park Avenue, all under certain terms and conditions. 220512, an ordinance authorizing the revisions of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 246 by striking from the City Plan 51st Street from Woodland Avenue to its terminus southeastwardly therefrom, and reserving and placing on the City Plan a right-of-way for public utility purposes within a portion of said 51st Street, being stricken and authorizing acceptance of the grant to the city of the said right-of-way under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220513, an ordinance authorizing the revision of lines and grades on a portion of City Plan number 269 by relocating the curb lines, reducing the cartway width, modifying the curb grades, and lowering the curb elevations of Osler Circle from Civic Center Boulevard to a terminus northwestwardly therefrom, and from Curie Boulevard to a terminus southeastwardly therefrom, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220514, an ordinance establishing no truck parking regulations on 53rd Street, both sides between Whitby Avenue and Broomall Street, and on Whitby Avenue, both sides between 53rd Street and 52nd Street. Bill 220515, an ordinance amending Section 9213 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Farmers Markets by adding a permissible location on Baltimore Avenue between 58th Street and 59th Street, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220516, an ordinance establishing parking regulations on Saybrook Avenue from Melville Street to 46th Street. Bill 220517, an ordinance authorizing the installation, ownership, and maintenance of various encroachments in the vicinity of 1 Convention Avenue, Philadelphia, PA 19104, under certain terms and conditions. Bill 20518, an ordinance amending Chapter 12-3000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Use of an Automated Red Light Enforcement System to Prevent Red Light Violations by authorizing the installation of red light enforcement systems at the intersection of 58th Street and Baltimore Avenue, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220519, an ordinance authorizing the striking from City Plan number 130 and vacating of an area for municipal purposes located at the intersection of the northeasterly side of Haverford Avenue and the westerly side of Wilson Street under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220520, an ordinance amending Bill number 1280, adopted June 30th, 1982, entitled An Ordinance Amending Chapter 12900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Parking Regulations and Penalties, and Chapter 12-1000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Parking Meter Regulations and Penalties by respectively authorizing the Streets Department to establish and revise limited time parking regulations in areas expressly provided for by special ordinances, to install parking meters in areas expressly provided for by special ordinances by increasing charges for metered parking and by increasing penalties for violation of Chapter 12-1000, and further specifically designating the Center City and University City areas for the purpose of authorizing the Streets Department to establish and revise limited time parking regulations and to designate parking meter zones and to specifically increase parking meter fees in those areas, to revise the area constituting University City, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220523, an ordinance amending Section 12903 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Stopping, Standing, or Parking Prohibited at Certain Times, to provide for regulation of such activity along Washington Avenue in the City of Philadelphia, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill 220527, an ordinance amending Section 9212 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Newsstands by adding provisions related to removal and relocation, all under certain terms and conditions. And the final bill, Bill 220528, an ordinance authorizing the relocation of the curb lines of Watt Street from Pine Street to a point northwardly therefrom on City Plan number 308 and the plotting on said City Plan of an area for public pedestrian use extending along the westerly side of said Pine Street, and authorizing acceptance of the grant to the city of the said area for public pedestrian use, all under certain terms and conditions.
Wow.
bills to be heard.
My goodness, great job. Before we begin the hearing testimony from the witnesses we have today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this is a public hearing and it's being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature should only be used for this purpose. Before one of the testimonies, I know one of the council members wanted to be recognized before a bill, but what I'll do is, Mr. Maynard, if we can, please call the first set of bills and witnesses we had to testify this afternoon, and then we could recognize anybody who'd like to speak.
Mr. Chair, the first bill we'll hear on is Bill 220379. The witness is Kyle Lewis from the Streets Department, and Councilmember Parker, I believe, wants to speak.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here. Should I speak now, Mr. Chairman? Thank you so very much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to, for the benefit of the viewing public, let them know that this bill amends Chapter 10-700 of our Philadelphia Code entitled Refuse and Littering as it relates to illegal dumping. This bill, Mr. Chairman, clarifies definitions, terms, and conditions of dumping violations, but it also, most importantly, revises the penalties for illegal dumping. Since the pandemic started, neighborhoods across the city have seen an increase in illegal dumping. It's become a major nuisance that not only destroys the image and aesthetic appeal of neighborhoods, but overall our environment. In addition to being an eyesore, the waste affects our physical environment, the waterways by contaminating groundwater and soil. Explanation of this legislation. It allows for the increase of potential total fine amount for illegal dumping violations. Currently, people know that the potential fine for illegal dumping without a vehicle, without a car, this is $2,000, and that's the maximum fine under state law. The potential fine for illegal dumping using a vehicle is $5,000. Again, that's the maximum allowed by state law. But with this legislation, every single large item of debris, such as a tire, Mr. Chairman, an auto part, a mattress, an appliance, a bag of debris or trash with a capacity of 5 or more gallons, it will now be subject to a violation. Sherelle, we don't get it. For example, if you had 20 tires dumped using a vehicle, the total fine amount could be $5,000 as it stands. But under this legislation, that new fine amount could reach $100,000. We're cracking down on people and companies that do not properly dispose of their trash. Not only is it an irresponsible business practice, but it's also disrespectful to the community. The trash is left behind is harmful, unsightly, and again, negatively impacts our quality of life. Special thanks to our streets commissioner for his leadership and his team and other folks in the administration for their expertise and assistance in drafting. In addition, I want to note for the record, this is a quality of life issue addressed on page 8 of the Philadelphia Neighborhood Safety and Community Policing Plan, which we introduced, that calls for funding to address quality of life issues such as blight, graffiti, trash dumping, abandoned cars, potholes, tractor trailers parked in residential neighborhoods, etc. Cracking down on illegal dumping and keeping streets clean will help to improve our public safety, and it will help to minimize criminal activity. Hopefully, by passage of this bill, the people will know that we're listening to them and addressing their most basic needs to provide a safer and a cleaner Philadelphia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, council member. Mr. Maynard, can you please read the first panel to testify?
Of course. The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220189. Sunil Gill from the Streets Department is the sole witness.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Thomas and member of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Sunil Gill. I'm currently working as an engineering manager for the Department of Streets. I'm here to offer testimony on bill number 220189, introduced by Council Member Thomas on behalf of Council President Clark. This bill authorizes the Streets Department to collect ADA curb ramp plan review application fee for the from the private developers and utilities to cover the cost for the ramp design compliance and approvals. The bill also authorizes the Streets Department to collect a fee in lieu of constructing, inspecting, and accepting ADA curb ramps from utilities that trigger ramps as part of their routine work in the public right-of-way. The fee will cover the cost for construction, inspection, and construction management for the ADA curb ramp. The Department of Streets supports this bill, and as this bill will help the department and the city to expedite the construction of compliant ramps in Philadelphia. The bill will also help offset some of the cost that is required to bring ADA curb ramp to current ADA compliance standards in Philadelphia. This concludes my testimony. I'm pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. For the record, I want to note that Councilmember Bass is present. Are there any questions to this? Seeing none, anyone else to testify on bill number 220189? Seeing none, would Mr. Maynard please call the next bill and the next person to testify?
The next bills we'll hear on are 220243, 220245, 220246, and 220247. Corinne O'Connor from the PPA is the sole witness on these bills.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Corinne. Just state your name for the record, and then you can proceed with your testimony.
Corinne O'Connor, Deputy Executive Director of the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Thank you for inviting me to testify on bill number 220245, 246, and 247. They are all in reference to parking of semi-trailers and trailers within residential areas. In the past few years, we as a city have seen a large increase in this behavior. The parking of trailers and semi-trailers in densely populated residential areas has become a quality of life issue for many throughout the city. We have seen an increase of requests from our local and state legislatures to enforce this violation, and the current amount set for this violation does not seem that defined deters the behavior, as much as those living within these areas would like to see. The Philadelphia Parking Authority is in support of increasing this violation, along with making this behavior a terrible offense where posted, along with establishing the definitions of the code. If the committee has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Does the Parking Authority have the ability to tow these large vehicles if they are parked in these illegally?
Yeah, so we do have some heavy-duty equipment that the Philadelphia Parking Authority currently owns. We currently do overturn tractor trailers and any other kind of big equipment along 95 and 676, and in Center City when we can get to that location. We do tow like your larger vehicles with our own equipment.
Would you need to have, I mean, since it's illegal to park these vehicles anywhere on the city streets, would you need to have signs posted in order for a ticketing and towing of these vehicles?
So technically under 12-901 paragraph 3, you can issue a parking violation if a tractor trailer or semi-trailer is parked within 100 feet of a residence. We do like, as the Philadelphia Parking Authority, we like to issue tickets where regulations are posted. So we would like to see the posting, and along with, if it's going to be a towable offense, we also would like to see that signage note towaway zone, just so it's clearer for the public and that they have proper notification.
All right, I think that would, help in areas where we have problems with our parking these large trailers.
Yes.
Maybe we would have to, I guess we would need will we need an ordinance to post these signs for a particular street, or can you do it unilaterally?
Normally it comes before streets and services where they add the sign and say no truck parking. Could be no truck parking 24 hours, or it could say no truck parking 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
So the no truck parking with a towable fence deals with more than just trailers, correct?
Well, that we usually, when it says no truck parking, we acknowledge it by using the gross vehicle weight, and it has to be over, like, I think it's like 18,000 pounds.
All right, so when you have no truck parking on your street between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., isn't that for like work trucks and specific trucks, or is that just for trailers?
That's for anything that's get a box truck and above, like a U-Haul. If you're just like a regular Ford F-150 pickup truck with truck tags, that we wouldn't have that fall under that type of code.
All right, so this sign would be exactly the same as the current signs we already have?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Ms. O'Connor on bill number 220245?
Councilmember, this is Councilmember Brooks. My question is for the bill sponsor.
Okay, please proceed.
I was wondering about the engagement with the administration and with PPD and L&I, because these are the organizations that they're not here speaking. So I was wondering what conversations were had with them. And also, can you kind of provide us the context on how the sponsor has engaged with PPD? I'm particularly interested in why these departments who already oversee illegal dumping of abandoned vehicles, why these departments are not here to speak on the change of the enforcement of this law.
Sure. So the Philadelphia Parking Authority is present to testify, and the Streets Department has provided written testimony. And I did meet with the Philadelphia Parking Authority, particularly the chair of the Parking Authority, and my staff has spoken to different staff members, including our witness today, Corinne O'Connor. I had a conversation with the Streets Commissioner, Carlton Williams, and his staff. We'd have numerous conversations with the Law Department. And I had a meeting face-to-face with Captain Vaughn of the nuisance unit that deals with both illegally parked trucks, which includes motorhomes, but tractor trailers, semi-trailers, and in particular auto trailers. And I had a meeting where Captain Vaughn and Beth Grossman sat down together and we discussed this. Basically, from what I've seen and from kind of looking at this problem over the years, at least from my perspective and talking to Captain Vaughn and Carlton Williams and Beth Grossman, there is, number one, a manpower problem in devoting personnel to do this. Secondly, although the Streets Department does put up cameras when requested, they do not review the video. The video is to be reviewed by the police. The police however, don't have the manpower to do it. The police unit that deals with illegally parked commercial vehicles typically has 2 officers for the entire city. And there's 1 detective for dumping and illegal trash and things like that. So there's a serious manpower shortage. Some of it is because officers from those units have been assigned to deal with violent crime and other things like that. There's also the fact that engagement by citizens with, for example, the illegal dumpers is highly discouraged. There have been occasions where those persons, when confronted, have pulled firearms on the people confronting them. There are also occasions where the people have confronted dumpers who pull guns on them, want to go get their guns. So overall, seems like not a good thing to do. This basically centers around the fact that we can engage with the both the Philadelphia Parking Authority to encourage them to be more active when it comes to illegally parked vehicles. They have the heavy equipment, but primarily authorizing them to lock wheels. If they come out to a location where citizens identify nuisance, tractor trailers, auto trailers in residential areas, they can come out and basically boot those vehicles. Those vehicles would not be able to move, and that would free up a lot of personnel time and discourage the parking of those vehicles in those neighborhoods. Typically, those vehicles are parked in a residential neighborhood for a long period of time. They are gone for a short period of time. They come back. They come back. They're used as kind of a base of operation. And people get in their trucks, drive wherever they do. Their personal vehicles, leaving those tractor trailers and auto trailers behind.
Right. Councilmember, I do understand that, but I was just trying to figure out why isn't the police department here, because they're the folks that come and ticket it.
So I did request from the administration the presence of the witnesses. What I do have is I have a letter from the streets department, which is not in opposition to what we're doing, and I do have the parking authority, which is.
But who is the enforcement body? Is it the parking authority or is it the police department?
Well, for the illegally parked tractor trailers, it is typically the Philadelphia Parking Authority. For abandoned tractor trailers and stolen vehicles, it is the police department. Although, at times I know that they do it jointly, and there is, at least in my mind, some confusion around what people are doing. For example, the question that was asked by the chair: do you need a sign on a street where you're already not supposed to be parked within 100 feet of a residence? The parking authority prefers to have the sign. From my reading, you don't need a sign, but the law department does recommend a sign. So I think that's kind of where we are. But there is no opposition from the police, from the parking authority, or the streets department.
Okay. So my second line of questions are about this third party administrators. How will we figure out probable cause? And, will they be working with L&I to connect vehicles to be towed from 311 complaints? And I was just wondering, how is this legislation avoiding unnecessary liability to these third party tow companies that don't work for the city?
Yeah, so the third party administration would not be the towing company. They would be the third party contractors. So in the code, in one part, the parking authority is the third party administrator. And I think in other sections, it is not. Currently, the police department, when they tow a tractor trailer or a auto trailer, they contract with a third party who uses their heavy equipment to tow these vehicles and store these vehicles. The parking authority has its own heavy equipment to do that. The question that arose is whether, and it would not be us. In our legislation, it provides an opportunity for the streets department, the city itself, to make a third-party administrator out of a business improvement district or a CDC. They would have to, those regulations of how they're qualified, certified, and what abilities they have would be done through regulation. That primarily has to do with looking at video where someone has short dumped and spotting the time. It may also have to do if they're authorized to deal with other types of smaller trash and debris that is left in the streets. Where I was thinking was when there is a video that identifies a license plate and a make and model of vehicle that has dumped debris, and a ticket is issued to the vehicle, they don't pay the pay the fine, they would be issued a warning that they would be booted if they don't pay the fine. And after a period of time, the third party administrator would then boot the vehicle. And if they don't pay to remove the boot, the vehicle would be towed. I believe that would be the parking authority, but it could be the state police. It could be some other entity that the city administration authorizes to act in that fashion.
Okay, that was kind of my question. Who is
Yep.
going to be responsible for
Yes.
the enforcement of this? Because I don't want folks to have false hopes. I know we all get a lot of phone calls about these tractor trailers and all of this. I just wanted to kind of clarify who would be the responsible body to move this forward. And my final question, so if a constituent vehicle was towed by one of these third-party administrators, who would be able to remedy the removal of the vehicle that was improperly booted and towed? And is there a department or agency that is prepared to provide this type of remedy and oversight?
Yeah,
of
so all of
decisions made by third-party tow truck companies?
Well, the third-party tow truck company would not be making those decisions. They would be instructed by the city, possibly by the parking authority, but I don't see why that would happen. But the parking authority or the city could contract with a tow entity that had the type of equipment to tow those type of vehicles. But all of that would be under the authorization of either the city or the parking authority. The third-party administrator could be the city authorizing the parking authority to act as a third-party administrator in other circumstances, or authorizing a business improvement district or CDC to act on behalf of the city in limited circumstances, but they would have to be authorized and certified by the city.
Okay. So the department has affirmed that they're willing to bring on these administrators to do all this.
Yes. Well, let me say this. They are not in opposition, and that's where we left it at this time in terms of I'm not sure that they have decided they will or won't engage bids, in particular business improvement districts, to do that. But I think that's just open-ended at this point in time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your answers. I'll continue to listen to the hearing, but I just wanted to flag that I have concerns about the back end of this work. That will be done as a part of this legislation.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
council members.
Thank you, council member. Councilmember Bass, your question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have a quick question around the PPA numbers in terms of what they currently do regarding this enforcement. I just wanted to know, how much of this are they currently doing? Are they doing, I know she said they had the equipment, but it doesn't feel like anything ever gets moved. So what's the turnaround on requests? And how many requests would you say you've done in the last year?
So currently, we do not tow tractor trailers or semi-trailers from the city streets. We have issued parking violations in neighborhoods where the PPD has requested our assistance, or we've had requests from legislatures, and then we asked the PPD, because they normally did issue the violations if they needed our assistance, and we've gone in those areas. Now, currently, what we have heavy-duty equipment for is the overturning and the accidents on 95 and 676. That's why we have heavy duty equipment. So we don't use that current heavy duty equipment when you see a tractor trailer parked on the street for no truck parking. Right now, we don't do that at all.
Okay. Okay, that I guess that answers the question. It just seemed as if you had the equipment and were able to do some of the enforcement on it, but I see that so that's not the priority. Okay.
So
Maybe that's why
we do have the equipment, and once this ordinance goes through, if we go out and we issue a violation and the signage says tow away zone, we will tow that truck. That's the goal of once we're in those areas, instead of just keep issuing a violation, we'll go and we'll tow it. Since it's now going to be a towable offense.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I guess that's probably why we don't see many of these vehicles getting towed. Is there any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I did receive communication that the witness for the streets department is available, Kyle Lewis.
All right, Kyle, if you'd like to state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate being here. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Kyle Lewis. I'm the Recycling Program Director, and I'm also the Chair of the Cleaner Public Spaces Enforcement Committee for the Department of Streets. We know that this bill would amend Title 10700 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Refuse and Littering, and the Streets Department.
Kyle, 1 second, please. What bill are you testifying on?
220. Oh, sorry about that. 220243.
Okay, refuse and littering bill. Okay, I'm sorry. Please proceed.
Oh, no, that's okay. Sorry about that. The Streets Department appreciates Councilman O's support of the department by looking at ways to help combat the short dumping problem in the city. As you know, the Streets Department spends about $1.8 million annually in cleaning and removing illegally dumped materials, and we monitor up to 130 dumping sites throughout the city on a daily basis. To date, 188 cameras have been installed for illegal dumping, and with an additional 80 purchased and waiting for installation. The city has also convened the Cleaner Public Spaces Enforcement Committee, made up of several intergovernmental agencies that are all aligned to combat illegal dumping and develop strategies on practical, legal, and enforceable tactics to hold offenders accountable. The committee recently developed a process by which streets will issue notices of violation in addition to CVNs for illegal dumping, and the NOVs allow us a higher fine, $5,000, and the authority to also charge violators for cleaning and remediation costs. And so we've increased the avenues for civil prosecution, and we are continuing to pursue avenues with the police department and the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. Each of these tactics all play a small part in our efforts to keep our neighborhoods safe, clean, and beautiful. And so while the department's efforts are ongoing, we all play a key role, and we certainly, again, appreciate Councilman O's support of the Streets Department in introducing this legislation. We know that illegal dumping is one of the most pressing quality of life issues that we face as a city, and our department will continue to work with Councilmember O and the rest of City Council, along with the community, to address the problem and seek solutions to make Philadelphia a cleaner, greener, and safer city. And so I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Kyle. Does anybody have any other questions? Ms. Lewis, did you also want to testify on 220379?
Yes, if you'd like me to do that now, I certainly can.
Yes, because I think that was read out earlier. Is that correct, Mr. Maynor?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. That was my omission.
Okay, no problem. Kyle, yes, please state your name again for the record, and you can testify on bill number 220379.
Sure. Again, my name is Kyle Lewis, and I'm the Recycling Program Director and the Chair of the Cleaner Public Spaces Enforcement Committee for the Department of Streets. And I'm pleased to speak today in support of Bill 220379 that's sponsored by Councilmember Parker, which amends Chapters 10700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Refuse and Littering. It further defines short dumping and related violations and revises the penalties and remedies related to such offenses. The Cleaner Public Spaces Enforcement Committee is an interdepartmental group aligned to coordinate enforcement towards reduced litter and illegal dumping. We strategize to hold illegal dumpers accountable through civil and criminal processes. This bill allows the city to seek higher civil penalties for restitution, and we hope that higher penalties, when coupled with the publicity of restitution and prosecutions by our police and district attorney's office, will be a greater deterrent for dumpers. Instead of a pile of tires being a single violation, this bill would make each tire a single violation, racking up higher fines and stiffer penalties. Many of the illegal dumps we see could have been legally dumped for free at one of our sanitation convenience centers around the city. And so we invite residents to use these locations, and businesses should dump legally at the many salvage, recycling, and disposal companies around the city. Paid disposal locations supply dated weight slips for every dump. And this legislation would also hold those who hire companies that would illegally dump accountable for their materials being dumped. We encourage those who hire clean out, contracting, and other types of workers that generate debris to hold their hauler accountable by asking for a weight slip before they conclude their payment in their business. Weight slips are always a part of legal paid dumping, and this legislation will require the hauler to keep records of their disposal for 3 years from the date of disposal. Illegal dumping is one of the most challenging quality of life issues that we face. As I said, it exploits the most disadvantaged communities and intensifies blight in our city. We look to this legislation to strengthen enforcement issues of the police, district attorney, streets, law, and other departments, and we will continue to work interdepartmentally with our city council and with the community to address the problem and seek solutions to make Philadelphia a cleaner, greener, and safer city. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions on this bill as well.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis, so much for your testimony. Are there any questions to Ms. Lewis or on bill number 220379? Seeing done, thank you so much. Mr. Maynard, will you please read the next bill and the person to testify?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In order to clean things up, Ms. O'Connor, do you have testimony on bills 246 and 247 in addition?
No, I do not. I just had one testimony to cover all three.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The next bill would be 220, 380, 381, and 382. Those bills are all covered in written testimony only by Dion Bracely from the PPA, and PPA has no objection to those bills. The next bill we'll hear from is Bill 220420, and Jeanette Bruger from Otis is the sole witness.
Jeanette, please just state your name for the record, and then you can proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squill and members of the Streets and Services Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Jeanette Bruger, and I'm the Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator in the Office of Complete Streets, which is housed in the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220420, introduced by Councilmember Gautier. This bill will authorize the removal of one vehicle through lane on Lindbergh Boulevard from 65th to 58th Streets. This is scheduled to occur as part of a corridor safety project from 84th to 58th Streets in 2023, next year, and will add a new painted bikeway from 65th to 60th Streets and a separated bikeway from 60th to 58th Streets. This section of Lindbergh Boulevard is part of the Vision Zero High Injury Network, where 80% of traffic crashes happen on 12% of Philadelphia streets. The new layout enabled by this legislation will calm vehicle traffic, improve safety for people walking along and across Lindbergh Boulevard, and will add a new link in the bikeway network. This project is consistent with the Philadelphia 2035 Comprehensive Plan, Connect, Philadelphia's Strategic Transportation Plan, and the city's pedestrian and bicycle plan. There is demonstrated support for this project from the area civic associations, Eastwick Friends and Neighbors, and the Southwest CDC, as well as nearby residents, the John Hines National Wildlife Refuge, and Bartram's Garden. Our office works closely with these groups before, during, and after the project is installed to address questions and concerns. The Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability coordinated on this bill with the Department of Streets and the Office of Councilmember Gautier. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Jeanette, thank you so much for your testimony. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, is anybody else here to testify on bill number 220420? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. Maynard, please read the title of the next bill and the person to testify.
The next two bills are 220453 and 220495. Ms. Brugger is the only witness to testify on both. Ms. Brugger, if you could testify consecutively on those, we would appreciate it.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Yep, this is 220453. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Jeanette Brugger, and I'm the Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator in the Office of Complete Streets, which is housed in the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. I'm here today to offer testimony on bill number 220453, introduced by Councilmember Thomas for Council President Clark. This bill will authorize the removal of one block of parking on the north side of Market Street from 23rd Street to 22nd Street, and the removal of one through vehicle lane westbound on Market Street from 23rd Street to 20th Street. The space from these lanes will be converted to a two-way separated bikeway on the north curb. The new layout will extend the existing separated bikeway on Market Street from 20th to 15th Streets, another 3 blocks to the west. We'll also calm drivers by right-sizing the vehicle lanes and maintain some parking and loading on the north curb from 22nd to 20th Streets. This section of Market Street is part of the Vision Zero High Injury Network, where 80% of crashes occur on 12% of Philadelphia streets. This project is consistent with the Philadelphia 2035 Comprehensive Plan, Connect, Philadelphia's Strategic Transportation Plan, and the city's pedestrian and bicycle plan. This bikeway will provide a safe, sustainable, and healthy transportation option for people of all ages and abilities. There's demonstrated support for this project from the 3 civic associations in the area, Logan Square Neighbors, Center City Residents Association, and Fittler Square, as well as the Philadelphia Fire Department Engine 43. The Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability coordinated on this bill with the Department of Streets and the Office of Council President Clark. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time, but instead I'm going to go right to the next bill, if you don't mind. Okay, good afternoon. This is 220493. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Jeanette Brugger, and I'm the Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator in the Office of Complete Streets, which is housed in the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. I'm here today to offer testimony on bill number 220495, introduced by Councilmember Johnson. This bill will authorize the removal of one on-street parking lane on Grays Ferry Avenue from 34th Street to Washington Avenue on the south side of the street. This is scheduled to occur with repaving in 2023, and that construction will add a 0.5-mile separated bikeway on each side of Grays Ferry Avenue for the same extents. Constructing this bikeway is consistent with the Philadelphia 2035 Comprehensive Plan, Connect, Philadelphia's Strategic Transportation Plan, and the city's pedestrian and bicycle plan, and will provide a safe, sustainable, healthy transportation option for people of all ages and abilities. There's demonstrated support for this project from the 3 area civic associations, Grays Ferry Community Council, Residents Organized for Advocacy and Direction, and Tasker Morris Neighborhood Association. Our office will work closely with these groups before, during, and after the project is installed to address questions and concerns. The Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability coordinated on this bill with the Department of Streets and the Office of Councilmember Johnson. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions on either 220453 or 220495? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on those bills? Seeing none. Thank you. Mr. Maynard, will you please call the title of the next bill and the person to testify?
The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220188, and we'll hear from Noel Marconi from Streets and Sarah Chu from Planning.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220188, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Peter F. Kelson, Esquire of Blank Rome LLP, representing Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. The purpose of this proposed ordinance is to authorize the striking from the city plan and abandoning of a portion of an existing right-of-way for drainage purposes and water main purposes, which extends northwesterly from a point on the northwesterly side of Civic Center Boulevard, approximately 275 feet northeast of Osler Circle. The portion of the right-of-way proposed to be stricken extends from a point approximately 43 feet northwest of Civic Center Boulevard to a point approximately 370 feet further northwesterly therefrom. This action has been requested by the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to facilitate their proposed University City inpatient expansion project. The Department of Streets has no objections to the proposed ordinance and recommends it to your committee for favorable action. I thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sarah. It looks like you're teeing up to testify. Just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairmember Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220188, which was introduced by Councilmember Gauthier on March 3rd, 2022. Bill number 220188 will strike from City Plan and abandon a portion of drainage and water main right-of-way at its current location that is underneath the East Service Drive. This action is to facilitate the Children's Hospital's new patient tower, including a new 29-story hospital building and underground parking garage facility. The Planning Commission had recommended approval for its rezoning bill number 210480 at its meeting on June 2021. Therefore, City Planning Commission at its meeting on March 17, 2022, recommended a bill number 220188 for approval as item in accord with previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for your testimony. Are there any questions to Noel or Sarah on 220188? Seeing none, is there anybody else to testify on bill number 220188? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Maynard, will you please call the title of the next bill and people to testify?
The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220488. Noel Marconi from Streets is the sole witness.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220488, introduced by Councilmember Parker. This ordinance will allow the Streets Department to promulgate regulations to establish no truck parking restrictions near various locations, including recreation centers, libraries, parks, and schools in the 9th Councilmanic District, consistent with the protection of public safety and appropriate use of the right-of-way. The Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Hearing none, are there anyone else to testify on bill number 220488? Seeing none, Mr. Maynard, please call the next bill.
The next bills we'll hear from on are Bill 220489, 220492, and 220494. Noel Marconi from Streets and Sarah Chu from Planning are the witnesses for each of those bills.
Thank you. Please proceed, Noel.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220489, introduced by Councilmember Parker. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Richard J. Goldstein, Esquire of Hangley, Archeneck, Siegel, Pudlin, and Schiller, representing Aldi Incorporated, Pennsylvania. The proposed ordinance will further amend a previous ordinance, Bill number 180560, approved July 2018, which authorized the striking from the city plan, a vacating the legally open portion of Montour Street from Adams Avenue to Folkrod Street. The proposed amendment will extend the operable period for compliance with the terms and conditions of the authorizing ordinance for 1 additional year. The portion of Montour Street proposed to be stricken is not paved or in use by public traffic. The purpose of this action is to remove a paper street as an encumbrance on private property and clear the area for commercial redevelopment. The Department of Streets has no objections to this proposed ordinance and recommends it to your committee for favorable action. I thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today and will be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Do you want me to read my 2 other ones, or do you want Sarah to go next?
All right, why don't you do 3 in a row, and then we'll have
Okay.
Sarah do 3 in a row, if that's okay.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220492, introduced by Councilmember Johnson. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Hercules W. Greengross of Claire Harrison, Harvey Brandberg, LLP, representing Bridge Industrial. This proposed ordinance will authorize the placing on the city plan a portion of 67th Street southeast of Essington Avenue. The purpose of this action is to reconnect a presently disconnected portion of 67th Street. In 1953, a portion of 67th Street formerly crossed a railroad right-of-way was stricken from the city plan, leaving the portion of 67th Street to the southeast of this location extending to the Schuylkill River, disconnected from the official city street system. The stricken area was apparently never closed to public traffic and has continued to be used to access the properties along the disconnected street segment. An abutting property owner is planning additional development and wants to ensure that access through 67th Street will continue unimpeded. Department of Streets has no objections to the proposed ordinance and recommends it to your committee for favorable action. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have today. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220494, introduced by Councilmember Johnson. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Marianne Mishlak, Project Manager for Bowler Engineering, PA, LLC, on behalf of Broad and Washington, LP. The purpose of this proposed ordinance is to authorize the striking from the city plan and abandoning of an existing right-of-way for drainage purposes and water main purposes located east of Broad Street and extending from Washington Avenue to Carpenter Street, and the striking from the city plan and abandoning of an existing right-of-way for gas main purposes located north of Washington Avenue and extending from 13th Street to a terminus westwardly therefrom. There are currently no active infrastructure facilities either of the rights-of-way proposed to be abandoned. This action will clear land and facilitate construction of a mixed-use development consisting of 1,111 residential units, including office and retail space and underground parking. Department of Streets has no objections to the proposed ordinance and recommends it to the committee for favorable action. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the testimony on those 3 bills. Sarah would like to proceed, state your name for the record, and then testify on all 3 bills.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chair Members Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220489, which was introduced by Councilmember Parker on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220489 will extend the timeline for compliance with the terms and conditions of the original bill, number 180560, which was approved by the Planning Commission on June 12, 2018, and the previous time extension bill, number 200537, was also approved by the Planning Commission on October 20th of 2020. The City Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9th, 2022, with a staff recommendation for approval as an item in accord with previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Good afternoon, Chair Member Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220492, which was introduced by Councilmember Johnson on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220492 will place a portion of 67th Street on city plan so that the entire section of 67th Street will be present on the city plan. The section of 67th Street was historically a railroad crossing. It was stricken from the city plan pursuant to a 1947 agreement between the city and the railroad company. The railroad is no longer in operation and the tracks has been removed after the 1960s. This current action is to provide vehicular access for a future development at 6310 Passyunk Avenue. The City Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9th, 2022, with a staff recommendation for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Good afternoon, Chair Member Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220494, which was introduced by Councilmember Johnson on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220494 will strike and abandon the former Watt Street drainage right-of-way. This action is to accommodate a mixed-use development at the 10,001-29 South Broad Street. This development on the proposed lot number 2 will include 651 multifamily residential units, retail, office uses, and accessory parking garage with 371 parking spaces. This development was reviewed by the Civic Design Review Committee on December 10, 2020. The Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9, 2022, with a staff recommendation for approval as item in accord with previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for your testimony. Are there any questions on bills number 220489, 220492, and 220494? And is there anyone else to testify on those bills? Seeing none, Mr. Maynard, can you please read the next bill?
The next two bills we'll hear on are bills 220501 and 220502. Noel Marconi from Streets is the sole witness on both bills.
Noel, you want to state your name and then proceed? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220501, introduced by Councilmember Sanchez. This ordinance delegates to the Philadelphia Streets Department the authority to regulate the direction of the movement of traffic and establish parking regulations on certain streets within the bounded area of Wyoming Avenue to 9th Street to Pike Street to Rising Sun Avenue, all under certain terms and conditions. Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220502, introduced by Councilmember Sanchez. This ordinance will regulate the direction of the movement of traffic on Gillingham Street between Mulberry and Tacoma Streets. The Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. The one-way regulations were posted in October of 2021. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Marconi. Are there any questions or anyone else here to testify on bill number 220501 and 220502? Seeing none, Mr. Maynard, would you please read the titles of the next bills?
The next bills we'll hear on are bills 220512 and 220513. Noel Marconi from Streets and Sarah Chu from Planning will be testifying on both bills.
Noel, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, school, and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220512, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Dennis Kurek, RLA of Ruggiero Plant Land Design, LLC, on behalf of Ronald Nessenbaum and Humphreys Cover Sports. This proposed ordinance will authorize the striking from the city plan of 51st Street from Woodland Avenue to its terminus approximately 420 feet southwesterly therefrom, and the reserving and placing on the city plan of a right-of-way for public utility purposes within the lines of a portion of 51st Street being stricken. This portion of 51st Street extends to a dead end and experiences minimal use by public traffic. The purpose of this action is to provide for additional development, enhanced access, and reduce construction constraints in order to facilitate improvements to an adjoining business site. Department of Streets has no objections to this ordinance and recommends it to the committee for favorable action. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. Pleased to answer any questions you may have. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220513, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. The purpose of this proposed ordinance is to authorize the revision of curb lines, grades, and elevations of Osler Circle from Civic Center Boulevard to a terminus northwesterly therefrom, from Curie Boulevard to a terminus southwesterly therefrom. This action has been requested by Children's Hospital of Philadelphia as part of their proposed University City expansion project. As part of this project, the existing underground garage, which occupies the area between the two termini points of Osler Circle, will be reconstructed and reconfigured, resulting in a substantial change in the grades and lowering of the elevations of both sides of Osler Circle as they approach the garage area. The Department of Streets has no objections to this proposed ordinance and recommends it to your committee for favorable action. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sarah. Do you want to state your name and testify?
Good afternoon, Chair Member Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220512, which was introduced by Councilmember Gauthier on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220512 will remove an approximately 420 feet section of South 51st Street, south of Woodland Avenue from the city plan. A public utility easement will remain on the portion being stricken. The site user, Humphreys, requested this street striking action to allow their facility expansion. Humphreys received a grant from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program, RACP, for their expansion. A rezoning bill number 220450 was also introduced to facilitate the same development. The City Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9, 2022, with a staff recommendation for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Good afternoon, Chair Member Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220513, which was introduced by Councilmember Gauthier on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220513 will make modifications to Osler Circle, which provides access to the Children's Hospital's medical buildings and its accessory underground parking garage. This action is to accommodate the Children's Hospital's new patient tower building at 3501 Civic Center Boulevard. The new building will include a 29-story hospital building, 2 levels of underground parking with total of 149 spaces within the new structure. There will be a total of 454 parking spaces for the entire development when it's completed. The Planning Commission had recommended approval for its rezoning bill number 210480 at its meeting in June 2021. The Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9th, 2022 with the staff recommendation for approval as item in accord with previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or anyone else to testify on bill numbers 220512 and 220513? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Maynard, will you please call the title of the next bills?
The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220514. Noma Omarconi from Streets is the sole witness.
Please state your name for the record and then proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noelle Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220514, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. This ordinance establishes no truck parking regulations on 53rd Street, both sides, between Whitby Avenue, Broomall Street, and Whitby Avenue, both sides between 53rd Street and 52nd Street. The Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. The regulation can be posted within 30 days of the bill's passage. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, it seemed like that was easy for you to say. Thank you for your testimony. Is there any questions? Anybody else to testify on bill number 220514? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Maynard, please read the title of the next bill.
The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220490. Noelle Marconi from Streets, Sarah Chu from Planning, and Waddell Ridley from St. Joe's University will be testifying on this bill.
Noelle, you'd like to start, and then we'll go to Sarah and Waddell.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noelle Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220490, introduced by Councilmember Jones. This bill authorizes the trustees of St. Joseph's University or its designee, the owner, to construct, own, and maintain a pedestrian underpass within the right-of-way at 5700-30 City Avenue, the property. The pedestrian underpass will be beneath the cartway and footprint of City Avenue, located approximately 150 feet east of the Cardinal Avenue curb line. The minimum vertical clearance beneath City Avenue will be 9 feet as measured from the top of the pedestrian path to the bottom of the westernmost beam. This will allow for a 6-foot ceiling below the beams and provide an 8 to 6 feet vertical underclearance to the ceiling. The underpass is approximately 25 feet wide. The Department of Streets has no objections to this proposed encroachment and supports the passage of this bill. This concludes my testimony. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Chairmember Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220490, which was introduced by Councilmember Jones on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220490 will allow for a pedestrian underpass connecting St. Joe's University's campuses that are on both sides of City Avenue. The underpass will provide a 21 feet wide walking path with a minimum vertical clearance height of 8 feet 6 inches. The St. Joe's University's pedestrian safety underpass project will enhance the overall pedestrian safety and it will improve St. Joe's University's circulation network. The project includes the construction of precast reinforced concrete arch, a walking path with adequate width, encouraging a safe and more comfortable user experience. This encroachment have no conflict with the public sidewalks at the street level, and it complies to the Complete Streets policy. The Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9, 2022, with the staff recommendation for approval as item in accord with previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for your testimony.
Mr. Ridley, if you're available.
Yep, I'm available.
Just state your name for the record and you can proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairman Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Commission. My name is Waddell Ridley, and I'm Assistant Vice President for Government and Community Relations at St. Joseph's University. Just over a week ago, St. Joseph's University completed a historic merger with the University of the Sciences and now enrolls more than 9,000 students across both its city and suburban locations. For years, St. Joseph's has maintained a strong presence in the community, including close partnerships with elected officials, civic organizations, groups of faith, and public and private schools in Winfield and Overbrook neighborhoods and beyond. A recent economic and community impact report found that the school provides approximately $575 million in annual economic benefits to the region, combined with $44.5 million in grant aid awarded to students from Pennsylvania and $2 million of vendor businesses and minority and women-owned businesses. The university also coordinates the delivery of over 87,000 hours of community service per year. Bill number 220490 before you today would allow St. Joseph's to move forward with its proposed City Avenue pedestrian underpass at 5700 City Avenue, a project that will help the university take a significant step towards its goal of connecting the Hawk Hill campuses to Hearts on either side of City Avenue and create a safe and efficient means of crossing between them. In recent decades, St. Joseph's University has more than doubled its campus square footage. The university's beautiful Hawk Hill campus now spans 125 acres on both the Philadelphia and Lower Merion sides of City Avenue. And the university recently welcomed the new University City campus at the location of the former University of the Science campus. Consistent with the goals of our campus master plan, the City Avenue pedestrian underpass will connect St. Joseph's Hawk Hill campus two sides in Philadelphia and Lower Merion, increasing of navigating the Hawk Hill campus. This important connector enhances the park and walk vision for the university's Hawk Hill campus, which aims to encourage faculty, staff, and students to park at a central location and walk to their destination, allowing the university to repurpose unnecessary surface parking lots for campus green spaces and pathways. In addition, this project will have far-reaching impacts on the community. The underpass will also provide safe alternatives for local residents to traverse this very busy intersection. The intersection where the underpass is located houses a number of bus stops that provide service to 4 popular routes. The City Avenue pedestrian underpass will be located approximately 150 feet east of Cardinal Avenue and City Avenue intersection. The underpass itself will be approximately 25 feet wide and will provide approximately 8 feet 6 inches of vertical clearance for pedestrians. I'd like to thank Councilman Jones for his strong support of the university and of this bill, and respectfully request that you recommend passage of bill number 220490 to enable this important pedestrian underpass project to move forward. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll remain available.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there other questions or any other testimony on 220490? Hearing none, Mr. Mayor, would you please call the next bill?
The next bill is Bill 220516. Noel Marconi from Streets is the sole witness.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here to offer testimony on bill number 220516, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. This ordinance establishes parking regulations on Saybrook Avenue from Melville Street to 46th Street. The Department of Streets has no objections to this bill. The regulation can be posted within 30 days of the bill's passage. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions or any other testifiers with bill number 220516? Seeing none, Mr. Maynard, please read the title of the next bill.
The next bill is Bill 220517. We have Noel Marconi and Sarah Chu.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220517, introduced by Councilmember Gautier. This bill authorizes trustees of the University of Pennsylvania, the owner, to install, own, and maintain encroachments at 1 Convention Avenue, the encroachment. The encroachments include 2 pedestrian bridges, one on South 34th Street and the other on Health Sciences Drive. Both pedestrian bridges will maintain a 9-foot width for walkable pedestrian space. I understand the bill is going to be amended on the floor, and it's going to be amended to include building overhangs, several ground encroachments, including flagpoles, planters, bollards, curbs, utility drains, and retaining walls. Vehicle directional signage is also included in the upcoming amendment to ensure drivers are able to safely navigate the new Penn Medicine Pavilion. The Streets Department has no objections to these proposed encroachments and supports the passage of the bill. This concludes my testimony. Pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Chair Member Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220517, which was introduced by Councilmember Gautier on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220517 will allow the construction of 2 overhead pedestrian bridges. One pedestrian bridge will be over 34th Street, connecting the Pavilion building to its main hospital building. Another pedestrian bridge will be over Convention Avenue or Health Sciences Drive, that is connecting SEPTA's University City Station to the Pavilion building. The City Planning Commission had recommended approval for previous bills, including reconfiguration of Convention Avenue and the various encroachments around the project sites, in order to accommodate the development of the Pavilion building. The Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9, 2022, with a staff recommendation for approval as item in accord with previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Noel, for your testimony. Are there any questions or any other people to testify on bill number 220517? Seeing none, Mr. Mayor, would you please call the title of the next bill?
The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220503, and Noel Marconi is the sole witness.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220503, introduced by Councilmember Quinones Sanchez. This ordinance will regulate the direction of movement of traffic on Meadow Street between Paul Street and Frankfurt Avenue. The Department of Streets has no objections to the bill. The one-way regulations were posted in October of 2021. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Noel. Is there anyone else here to testify or any other questions on 220503? Seeing none, Mr. Mayor, would you please read the title of the next bill?
The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220504. We have Christopher Pahalski from Otis and written testimony in favor from PPA.
Good afternoon.
Just state your name, thank you, and proceed with your testimony.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. Good afternoon, Chair Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Christopher Pahalski. I'm the Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives in the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. I'm here to testify on Bill 220504, introduced by Councilmember Quinones Sanchez. This bill would change the boundaries of certain residential parking permit districts. Otis does not oppose this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Who is next to testify?
That's it to testify on this bill.
Any questions? I see we have Councilmember Bass. Is that a hand raised or maybe I'm
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my apologies. I was having trouble coming off of mute. I would like to, I'm going to have to leave the committee hearing, but would like to be recognized as voting aye on all matters before the committee today.
Okay, thank you, council member. Appreciate it. Are there any other questions on bill number? I don't know if I forget what it is, to tell you the truth.
504.
504 for this one.
504, thank you. Seeing no questions or anybody else to testify, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Maynard, please read the title of the next bill.
Mr. Pahalski, stay close because the next bill is 220505, and you are the sole witness.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. I am Christopher Pahalski, Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at Otis. I'm here to testify on Bill 220505, introduced by Councilmember Kiona Sanchez. This bill would allow for installation of an automated red light enforcement system at the intersection of Front and Hunting Park. This intersection was identified in a citywide analysis as having a high number of red light running crashes. Automated enforcement systems are an important and effective component of reducing and eliminating traffic fatalities, along with changes to infrastructure and education. Otis supports this bill, which is consistent with the mayor's Vision Zero initiative. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I also see Jennifer popped up. Jennifer, you here to testify on this bill?
No, I think the next one, sorry.
Okay, thank you. No problem. Is there any other questions on, or anybody else here to testify on 220505? Hearing none.
Yes,
Maynard,
this
could
is
you read the
Karina
title of the next
O'Connor.
bill?
Hi, this is Karina O'Connor from the Philadelphia Parking Authority.
Yes, Corinne.
Hi, I was also slated to testify today.
Okay. Corinne, please state your name for the record and testimony on bill number 220505.
Karina O'Connor, Deputy Executive Director of the Philadelphia Parking Authority. Good afternoon, and thank you to the members of the committee for allowing me to testify today. I would also like to thank Councilwoman Quinona Sanchez for introducing this legislation. I'm testifying in favor of bill number 220505, which would add an additional intersection to the red light camera program in the city. This intersection will be located at Front and Hunting Park Avenue. I'd like to commend council for its past excellent and most times unanimous support for the program. Since the first camera was activated at Grant Roosevelt Boulevard on February 23, 2005, the program has been successful in its main goals: decreasing red light running and changing the behavior of driving public. As of today, there are 146 cameras at 34 intersections throughout the city of Philadelphia. The intersection of Front and Hunting Park is a highly traveled area with many large commercial businesses. There is a school located in close proximity, and is our goal to make this intersection safer for those students that are in need of crossing at this intersection. In addition to the safety of our walking, driving, and riding public, the red light camera program is a method to curtail dangerous behavior, and after installations throughout the city of Philadelphia, we have seen a change in behavior pertaining to red light running. I'm asking the committee to be in favor of bill number 220505, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Corinne, for your testimony. Is there anybody else, any questions or anybody else to testify on bill number 220505? Seeing none. Mr. Maynard, can you please read the title of the next bill?
The next bill we'll hear is Bill 220515, and Ms. Aquilante from Public Health is the sole witness.
Thank you, Jennifer. Please proceed. State your name for the record. Proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Jennifer Aquilante. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Jennifer Aquilante, Food Policy Coordinator for the Philadelphia Department of Public Health, Division of Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention. Thank you for allowing me to testify on bill number 220515, sponsored by Councilmember Gautier, which would allow the sidewalk and the curb lane of the north side of Baltimore Avenue between 58th Street and 59th Street to be a permissible location for a farmer's market. The Health Department's Division of Chronic Disease and Injury Prevention is dedicated to creating a more healthy, just, livable community for all residents and supports community-driven solutions to promote food justice in areas where access to healthier food is needed the most. Farmers markets are a great example of improving access to healthy and affordable food in neighborhoods that may be inundated with unhealthy choices. They connect urban communities to local and rural agriculture and not only help provide access to fresh fruits and vegetables and other locally grown products, but also help support the local and regional farming economy. Last season, almost 50 farmers markets were operating in Philadelphia, most of which accepted SNAP or Access cards and Farmers Market Nutrition Program vouchers, which ensures that there is more equitable access to fresh local whole foods. In a time when our food system is challenged and supply chain issues abound, opportunities to promote and utilize local food are even more necessary. The Health Department supports this bill and efforts to expand the network of farmers markets throughout the city, especially in those communities that could benefit from increased healthy food options. We thank Councilmember Gautier for introducing this bill and appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony today. I'm happy to respond to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions or anyone else to testify on bill number 220515? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. Maynard, can you please call the title of the next bill?
The next bill is Bill 220518. I believe Ms. O'Connor is testifying on this, and I believe Chris Pahalski is testifying on it.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Karina O'Connor. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Philadelphia Parking Authority. I'd like to thank the members of the committee for allowing me to testify today. I would also like to thank Councilwoman Gauthier for introducing this legislation. I'm testifying in favor of bill number 220518, which would add an additional intersection to the red light camera program in the city. This intersection would be located at 58th and Baltimore Avenue. The intersection of 58th and Baltimore Avenue has many small streets feeding into it, making this intersection very active. Located at the site is a church, many small businesses, a gas station, and a trolley route. On a daily basis, you will witness not only a high volume of traffic, but also pedestrians trying to navigate crossing at this intersection. The red light camera was designed to curtail dangerous behavior, and after installation, we have seen a change in behavior of the driver, making the intersection much safer. I ask that the committee give bill number 220518 a favorable recommendation. Request that the rules be suspended to allow first reading at the next council session. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify before the committee.
Chris, you want to proceed?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. Good afternoon, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Christopher Pahalski. I'm the Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at Otis. I'm here to testify on Bill 220518, introduced by Councilmember Gautier. This bill would allow for installation of an automated red light enforcement system at the intersection of 58th and Baltimore. Automated red light enforcement systems are an important and effective component of reducing and eliminating traffic fatalities along with changes to infrastructure and education. Otis supports this bill, which is consistent with the Mayor's Vision Zero initiative. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd like to thank Councilmember Gautier for sponsoring this bill. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions or anybody else to testify on bill number 220518? Seeing none, Mr. Maynard, will you please read the title of the next bill?
The next bill is Bill 220519. We have Noel Marconi and Sarah Chu.
Noel, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noelle Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220519, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Brett D. Feldman, Esquire of Claire Harrison, representing Spectrum Health Services Incorporated. The purpose of this proposed The purpose of this proposed ordinance is to authorize the striking from the city plan and vacating the city's rights to certain parcels of land located at 5217-19 Haverford Avenue and the intersection of the northeasterly side of Haverford Avenue and the westerly side of Wilton Street. This parcel was dedicated to the city by the Redevelopment Authority and plotted on the city plan as an area for municipal purposes in 1972. But is not currently utilized for any city or municipal purpose. This action will cause the area to revert to the redevelopment authority, which then intends to convey or lease the area for use as parking for the nearby Spectrum Health Services Community Health Center. The Department of Streets has no objection to this bill and recommends it to your committee for favorable action. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Chairman Bisquilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220519, which was introduced by Councilmember Gauthier on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220519 will strike from City Plan and vacate an area at the northwest corner of Haverford Avenue and Wilton Street. This area will be reversed back to Redevelopment Authority's ownership. This action will assist Redevelopment Authority's agreement to formalize the current use on the lot at 5217-19 Haverford Avenue as a non-accessory parking lot. The lot is primarily used by the patients and the staff of Spectrum Community Health Center at 5201 Haverford Avenue. The City Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9th, 2022, with a staff recommendation for approval in accord with the previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there any questions or anybody else here to testify on bill numbers 220519? Seeing none, Mr. Maynard, read the title of the next bill.
The next bill is Bill 220520, and Christopher Pahalski from Otis is the sole witness.
Thank
Please
you.
proceed, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Squilla, and thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Christopher Pahalski. I'm the Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives in the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. I'm here to testify on bill number 220520, introduced by Councilmember Gauthier. This bill would alter an ordinance passed in 1982 and expand the parts of University City where the Streets Department can change parking rules by ordinance by regulation. This change will give the Streets Department, in coordination with the District Council member, the ability to adjust to changing resident and visitor parking needs. Otis supports this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chris, for your testimony. Is there anybody else to testify or any questions on 220520? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Maynard, can you please read the title of the next bill?
The next bill is Bill 220523. Lily Reynolds from Otis is the sole witness.
Thank you, Lily.
Afternoon.
State your name and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chairperson Squilla. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Lily Reynolds, and I am the Deputy Director of the Office of Complete Streets in the Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability. I'm here today to offer testimony on bill number 220523, introduced by Councilmember Squilla. This bill will authorize the Streets Department to establish and revise by regulation restrictions and limitations on standing, stopping, and parking along the north side of Washington Avenue from Delaware Avenue to 11th Street, and along the south side of Washington Avenue from Delaware Avenue to Broad Street. The introduction of timed parking spaces and new loading zones on Washington Avenue responds to the need for greater parking availability and more loading zones on the corridor. Washington Avenue is on Philadelphia's high entry network. This proposed parking and loading regulations are part of a comprehensive safety project that is coordinated with paving the street. The safety project will introduce a new lane configuration on Washington Avenue and is anticipated to be constructed this calendar year. The new layout will improve safety on the street by reducing the effective pedestrian crossing distance, protecting the existing bike lane, and adding safe loading spaces for buses. The project also includes retiming of the traffic signals on Washington Avenue to maintain traffic flow while reducing the likelihood for speeding and aggressive driving. The Office of Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability conducted analyses of existing parking and loading conditions on Washington Avenue from Delaware Avenue to Grays Ferry Avenue between 2016 and 2019. We identified 167 active businesses on the corridor at that time and surveyed 80% of them about their parking and loading needs. These analyses demonstrated that the current regulations on Washington Avenue provide insufficient loading zones and parking turnover. To better meet these needs, the specific timings and locations of the proposed regulations were developed on a block-by-block basis. The factors included observations of current behaviors like double parking and included the land use, type of businesses and hours of operation, and the input of businesses. Bill number 220523 allows the Streets Department the ability to adjust the regulations if needed. At the request of Councilmember Squilla, Bill number 220523 includes a provision that the regulation shall incorporate analysis of the traffic data collected along and parallel to Washington Avenue 1 year and again 2 years after project completion. Otis will be responsible for collecting this data and reporting to Council on the observed changes in traffic. This project provides safe, sustainable, healthy transportation options for people of all ages and abilities and is consistent with various city plans, including the city's Vision Zero action plan. There is demonstrated support for this project from numerous neighborhood groups, RCOs, and schools near Washington Avenue. Otis has conducted extensive community engagement for this project, including surveys which have shown community support for the project. Mayor Kenny has also received, since May 27, 2022, over 500 emailed petitions calling for the introduction of parking and loading legislation on the entire Washington Avenue corridor, including from Grays Ferry Avenue to Delaware Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Hey, Lily, thank you so much. Do you know who would be doing the studies as we determine once the street is done? I know we have a 1 year and 2 year study on the adjoining streets.
Yeah, so that would be handled by Otis. At times, we work with DVRPC to do volume counts on various corridors. We also do speed counts using radar in-house.
And will that information after a year will be sent to Council?
That's correct. I'm sorry, I think you're on mute.
Councilmember, you're on mute.
Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of people would like to mute me, but it's been a long road and a lot of outreach and a lot of concerns along the way. And I'm sure we're still, we're going to have concerns as we move forward. So, and some other people to share those concerns. So looking forward to continue this conversation, working with Otis and council members to see how this works and how we could move forward as this plan is drawn out. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We look forward to that continued collaboration and evaluation.
Thank you. Mr. Maynard, is there any other people to testify on this bill, or is that for Collins?
There is quite a few people on public comment, but that is the only witness.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. Seeing no other questions and nobody else to testify at this time, that will be it for 220523. Mr. Maynard, please call the title of the next bill.
The next bill we'll hear on is Bill 220528. Noel Marconi and Sarah Chu will testify.
Sarah, Nicole, you could go first, and then Sarah, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220528, introduced by Councilmember Squilla. This is not an administration ordinance, but an ordinance requested by Timothy F. Bowles, PEF Bowles Smith Associates, Incorporated, on behalf of Broad and Pine Associates, LP. This proposed ordinance will authorize the relocation of the curb lines of Watt Street from Pine Street to approximately 72 feet northwesterly therefrom, and the establishing of an area for public pedestrian use along the westerly side of said Watt Street. These actions will widen the roadway of said Watt Street while ensuring that sufficient sidewalk width is maintained for pedestrian traffic through the widened area. The purpose of these changes is to provide more suitable access to a new below-grade parking garage to be constructed as part of a proposed residential building on the adjacent property at 337-41 South Broad Street. The Department of Streets has no objections to this proposed ordinance and recommends it to the committee for favorable action. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Chairman Basquilla and members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220528, which was introduced by Councilmember Squilla on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220528 will widen a portion of Watt Street's right-of-way from its existing width of 12 feet to 20 feet and will plot on city plan an area dimensioned 2.5 feet wide by 68 feet long for public pedestrian uses. This action is to facilitate the development at 337-41 South Broad Street. Watt Street's cartway needs to be widened from 6.5 feet to 12 feet to allow the vehicular access in the proposed underground parking garage. And this development will also remove the existing curb cuts on Broad Street and on Pine Street. The proposed development at 337-41 South Broad Street includes demolishing of the existing garage, the construction of 91 units apartments, 2,800 square feet of commercial spaces, 18 accessory parking spaces, and 32 bicycle parking spaces. The zoning permit was already issued on April 21, 2022. The City Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9, 2022 with staff recommendation for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and much appreciated. Is there anybody else to testify on bill number 220528 or any questions? Seeing none. Mr. Maynard, can you please read the title of the next bill?
We have two bills left to go. We have Bill 220527 first. Michelle Brisbane from Streets is the sole witness.
Michelle, if you're available, just state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Michelle Brisbane, and I'm excuse me, my phone's ringing. And I'm the Assistant Chief Highway Engineer for the Department of Streets. I'm here to offer testimony on bill number 220527, introduced by Councilmember Squilla on May 26, 2022. This bill amends section 9-212 of the Philadelphia Code by adding provisions related to removal and relocation of newsstands, all under certain terms and conditions. The Department of Streets respectfully opposes the proposed amendment, specifically the addition to the code of new subsection 9-212 8B .2D. First, new subsection D is in conflict with subsection 9-212 2B.5, which requires the applicant for a newsstand license to post a bond for the amount required to remove or relocate a newsstand and all incidental costs. Passage of this amendment would lead to the purchase of a bond that subsequently cannot be invoked. Second, the provision conflicts with existing authorizations. The new subsection may not apply to some existing license holders who, as part of their applications, may have agreed to pay for such costs. It also would not protect any newsstand with authorization for conduit, as their authorizing ordinances require that the licensee pay all costs of removal and relocation. Third, the broadness of the term approved location may not protect all of the intended stakeholders. Location approvals are subject to revocation for several reasons, including but not limited to discrepancies on the plan submitted to the department or discovery of conditions not reported at the time of application, whether known to the applicant or not. It is unclear whether this provision applies to a location that was approved but subsequently revoked. Finally, the costs of removal are not fixed. Some newsstands are standalone structures. Others have previously authorized conduits. Setting aside these licensees' existing obligations, the difference in removal and relocation between these two categories is tens of thousands of dollars and inequitable to the city if the reason for removal or relocation is lawful. This concludes my testimony. I'm pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for your testimony. Are there any questions or anybody else here to testify on bill number 220527? Seeing none. Thank you. Mr. Maynard, could you read the title of the next bill?
The next and final bill we'll hear on today is Bill 220500. We have Noel Marconi, Sarah Chu, and Brandon Savrin testifying on this bill.
Noel, if you want to start, and then we'll go down the line.
Sure. Good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee. My name is Noel Marconi, and I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Department of Streets. I'm here today to offer testimony on Bill number 220500, introduced by Councilmember Sanchez. This bill legalizes an existing bulk front addition at 401-407 East Wyoming Avenue, all under certain terms and conditions. The Department of Streets respectfully opposes the potential legalization of this encroachment. The encroachment described in the bill is a building addition fronting a grocery store and spanning 4 parcels. According to our search, the current encroachment was originally an awning with standard bollards. In 2018, an additional awning was attached. In 2019, the full building enclosure was constructed. None of that work was performed with any required permits or approvals. Although the bill conditions authorize obtaining those permits, there is nothing to suggest the property owner will follow through on that obligation, nor has any incentive to do so. The past behavior of illegally erecting the additional suggests that requirement will continue to be ignored. If the permit application is refused, the addition will still exist in its illegal format. Most egregiously, the illegal construction of this encroachment created a hazard for PGW. The structure is directly over their gas main. PGW temporarily cut and capped that main, but not until the hazardous condition was discovered. The decision to illegally construct therefore created for 3 years and counting a threat to public safety. PGW estimates the total cost of the temporary cap at so far $7,000. A permanent solution, if the encroachment remains, will be more costly. This concludes my testimony, and please answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Sarah, you want to proceed with your testimony?
Sure. Good afternoon, Chairmember Squilla and the members of the Committee on Streets and Services. I'm Sarah Chu, City Planner with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 220500, which was introduced by Councilmember Sanchez on May 26, 2022. Bill number 220500 will legalize an existing bulk front addition located on the north right-of-way of East Wyoming Avenue at 401-407 East Wyoming Avenue property. The construction encroached 6 feet 11 inches in width and 73 feet in length onto the footway along the building line. A minimum of 4 feet 10 inches of a clear passable sidewalk space remain behind the newly installed bus shelter. The city's complete streets policy have a minimum clear passable sidewalk space of 6 feet wide, and the current encroachment sets a walking zone width below the minimum requirements. This encroachment also created a hazard as it's in close proximity above the PGW's gas main, which had to be relocated immediately. The Planning Commission will consider this bill at its meeting on June 9, 2022, with the staff recommendation not for approval. I'll be happy to answer questions you have at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember, you're on mute.
Brendan, could you state your name and prepare to testify?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairperson Squilla. My name is Brandon Savrin. Thank you for having me, members of the Streets and Services Committee. I'm an attorney with Pritzker Law Group, which is a certified women-owned business here in Philadelphia. I'm testifying before you today on Bill number 220500. My firm represents the business owner, Fernandez Brothers, Inc., who operates the Compare and Save grocery store We've been working with Council Member Quinones Sanchez's team regarding the encroachment at the grocery store located at 401-407 East Wyoming Avenue. The business owner in 2018 extended the business on East Wyoming such that it encroached into the sidewalk. The business was subsequently fined by the Department of Licenses and Inspections. Our firm was not retained until that violation resulted in litigation, and that litigation was underway. We therefore, of course, were not involved when the addition was built, nor when L&I issued its violation. Our understanding is that the business did not have legal counsel at that time. However, we have committed ourselves to working with the 42nd Ward, this area's registered community organization, and have held a number of meetings with the ward and have engaged with community members to address any and all concerns. Not only did we meet on numerous occasions with the 42nd Ward and the public, but we also committed to mailing immediate neighbors as well about the encroachment ordinance. This step in meeting with the 42nd Ward and the mailing were not required in this process. However, we felt that they were important in order to be transparent with the community on the business owner's intentions and the events that led to the violation. Our commitment to the RCO, the 42nd Ward, and the council office was not to set a precedent of building and then legalizing a structure. However, this is one of the very few grocery stores in this area with fresh produce available daily, which I believe is kept in the portion of the building that encroaches. So we felt we had a moral obligation to provide legal representation and to assist in legalizing the encroachment. The encroachment does not prevent or interfere with accessibility, including anything ADA related, which is what led to this legislation coming before you today with no opposition from the community or from the council member's office. We have cross-collaborated every step of the way in this process. So we would urge you to favorably report Bill number 220500 out of committee. I'm available and happy to answer any questions you may have and appreciate the opportunity to testify today.
Brennan, thank you so much for your testimony. Is there any questions or anybody else here to testify on 220500? Thank you. Mr. Maynard, that will be the end of our bills for the hearing. I know Chairman Thomas, I'm not sure if he's available, if he wants to take over from this point, but I know we have to go to the public comments. Do you know if Chairman Thomas is available?
I apologize. I do not know about Councilmember Thomas's availability at the moment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm present. Mr. Clerk, I'm present. If you can hear me, that was my first sound test. I apologize.
We can hear you.
Yes, we hear you fine. We're on page 6. To start, Chairman Thomas, do you want me to continue or do you want to take over?
I can take over after. Are we done all the legislation and we're about to go into the public meeting?
No, we're going to go into public comment and hear from 50 plus people.
Whatever you prefer, Mr. Chair, I'm here to support you. And I just want to say thank you for chairing this for me while I had to deal with a personal matter. So thank you.
Yeah, I think at this point, too, Mr. Maynard is going to be leading, or somebody, I think maybe OIT will be leading it. Everybody's going to be leaving. Calling up folks to are going to be testifying. So at this point, Mr. Maynard, do we want to call the public commenters?
So council support will need time to load public comment in. So,
and Mr. Chair, what we can do is while council support is loading the public comment component, we can swap out and I can serve as the chair for the public comment component if that's okay with you.
Okay, that sounds great. Then before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware, and that's going to be, I guess we're going to state that when they all get on. All right.
Best, yes.
Let's take a delay and we'll switch chairs. And Mr. Maynard, I guess let us know when we're ready to return.
Thank you, Tech Team. We are now moving into the public comment component of today's hearing. I want to thank our Vice Chair, Councilmember Squilla, for chairing the majority of today's hearing. It's definitely appreciated. For those who are signed up for public comment, each person will have 2 minutes to communicate your public comment, as we have a lot of public comments and we want to let everybody have an equal amount of time to be able to say what they want to testify to the members of the Streets and Services Committee. With that being said, Mr. Maynard, will you please call, or Tech Team, will you please call the first person for public comment today?
Tech, do you want to call the list since you have the people loaded, or do you want me to?
Yes, you could call the name, David, and if they're not in, we'll let you know.
Sounds good. The first name on the list is Murray Spencer, commenting on Bill 220523.
Not connected.
Okay. The next name is Albert Littlepage on 523.
Hello?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
We can hear
Good
you.
afternoon,
Please,
committee.
we can hear you. Please
Fine,
state your
call
name
the
for
ball.
the record, and you may begin with your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Albert Littlepage. So I want to again greet the committee and the committee chair and all the honorable council persons that are here today. I'm speaking on Bill 220523. As the president of the Point Breeze Community Development Coalition, the community, businesses, and old and new residents in the Point Breeze, Grace Ferry, and Graduate Hospital support Councilman Johnson's position on Bill 220523. Members of our community believe that by reducing the lanes on an emergency thoroughfare, which Washington Avenue is, it will reduce police and fire response times. It will also increase traffic with trucks alike on the adjoining smaller streets, potentially placing our children in danger and possibly damaging homes. It is also the only point of travel in a major snowstorm. After 10 years of meetings, we have presented Otis and the opposition groups with safety improvement and roadway enhancements that will make Washington Avenue safer without reducing the lanes. By repaving and adding pavement markings and roadside, traffic signal upgrades, additional crossing guards, speed reminder signs and speed bumps, reflector color coding bike lanes and stripings, etc. We believe these additions will improve Washington Avenue. Again, our community advocates for a safer Washington Avenue. The proponents of this bill have all or a nothing position. They have gone so far as to create a false narrative on the corrective measures that will make Washington Avenue safe for everyone. During the Bicycle Coalition press conference, their executive director stated that if the bill didn't pass, Washington Avenue doesn't deserve any upgrades or any enhancement safety measures. Wow. Their position is do it our way, or if not, abandon your narrative or our narrative as it relates to safety and do nothing. How safe is that? What a contradiction. The Bicycle Coalition executive director also stated that if the bill does not pass, it would cause divisiveness in the community. This statement shows a lack of respect and is a misrepresentation of the community. So let's get this straight. If we don't agree with your false narrative, you will attack. Where have we seen this act before? These statements are counterproductive and speak to everything but safety. Again, everyone deserves a safe Washington Avenue, and it doesn't begin with uncompromising bullies who become divisive and attack your very being. It begins with compromise. Please consider the road enhancements and safety measures for the 5-lane Washington Avenue. These enhancements have the best potential to make Washington Avenue safe for our children, seniors, bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorists. We love the community we helped build and sustain for years. Now let's make it safer for everyone. Thank you and God bless you.
Question, Chairman.
Chair recognizes Councilmember O.
Thank you very much. Mr. Littlepage, are you in favor or in opposition of Bill 220523?
I heard a beep, Councilman. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand your question.
Yeah, are you in favor or in opposition of this bill?
I'm in opposition of the bill, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Maynard or Tech, can you please call the next witness?
The next witness is Maidan.
I'm sorry, the next witness is who? I had a hard time hearing you, so they might have had a hard time hearing you.
Mai, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please state your name for the record and you may begin with your testimony.
Hi, my name is Mai, M-Y. Last name is Dang, D-A-N-G. Can I start?
Yes.
I'm in opposing the bill. I'm an Asian business owner on Washington Avenue and been here since on Washington Avenue. I've been in business since 1996, and with the 5-lane currently, and we still get a lot of traffic. And on Washington Avenue, on the sign, it says artery real, meaning it's a vein, meaning it's the main vein for the city of Philadelphia. That means it's a main avenue. How can we shrink the lane to reducing the lane to 2 lanes? It's unreal. With all these businesses up and down the avenue, there's a lot of trucks and a lot of other vehicles. It's congested now. As of now, just imagine reducing it to 2 lanes. It's just mind-boggling. It's not able. We can't do it. Currently, there are bike lanes already on the avenue. We just have to enhance the marking. That's what we need to do. We need to improve the marking of the avenue and not reducing the lane of the avenue. We love the 5-lane. It's a large avenue. There's not much large avenue in Philadelphia except for Market Street, Broad Street, Washington Avenue, Delaware Avenue. That's basically it. We need this 5-lane here. We cannot reduce it to 2 lane. It's not going to work. With the businesses right now, the bike lanes are there, but it's just that we need to enhance the marking. We need improvement from the street department to improve Washington Avenue and not to shrink down to 2 lane. And I'm done.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the next witness, or Tech, would you please call the next witness?
The next witness is Claudia Sherrod, commenting on 523.
Hello. My name is Claudia Smith Sherrod, president of the Point Breeze Community Network Plus. I'm here in opposition of Bill 220523, and I'd like to say good afternoon to the chair and the honorable council people of the committee. I'd like to first say thank you to our city councilman, Kenyatta Johnson, for standing up for the constituents in the 2nd Councilmanic District. I'm going to give you 7 points, and I will send in the details. Number 1, Washington Avenue is not for the pedestrians. Washington Avenue is one of the safest arterial roads in the city. Washington Avenue, along with Christian Street, are roads made for transportation, heavy lifting, and to benefit the business that would be lost if we allow the proposed plan to be implemented. Washington Avenue was made to take the brunt of heavy traffic from the neighborhoods. Our homes will be torn apart from the buses and trucks. I'm a living witness. Washington Avenue left and right lane turning reduce traffic congestion and provide even flow of traffic. All streets need whatever help possible to maintain safe streets. Reducing them is fine in an already small area, not in an evacuation route. Vision Zero Otis implied Washington Avenue is one of the most crashed streets in Philadelphia. On a list that was pulled together by the state, it's pointed out we were number 63 and 66 on another list on high injury list. No, not even on the map. We are nowhere near crash related. We have another colleague who will be speaking on with numbers. I don't have all the numbers, but I'm telling you what I know. And most of my findings are from the Road Diet Guide. And what is important also is some bicyclists ride reckless. They hit people and run into vehicles. They need safety training, insurance, and ID. Councilman Squilla, I hope you change your stance. That's my testimony in oral, and you will get it in writing. Thank you very much for my time that you've given me. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Maynard, will you please call the next witness?
The next witness is George Leon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. My name is George Leon. I live at 20th and Carpenter Street. I am a member of the Sosna Zoning Committee, the South of South Street Town Watch, and the St. Charles Borromeo Church Council. I am testifying to oppose Bill 220523, and I would like to thank Councilman Johnson for his position to improve safety on Washington Avenue while maintaining 5 lanes. I support his plan 100%, and here's why. There was an article published by Bloomberg News last April that demonstrates that traffic accidents and fatalities have actually risen in every major American city that adopted the Vision Zero approach, which is the basis of the Otis Washington Avenue plan. Vision Zero is a European approach that has never been successfully adopted in any American city. The Otis plan could potentially make things worse by relying on the Vision Zero approach. If we reduce the number of lanes on Washington Avenue, we will have more congestion, drivers will become frustrated, cutting each other off, getting impatient, driving aggressively, and we'll see more road rage, not only on Washington Avenue, but also on all the side streets, including my own, where traffic will be diverted from Washington Avenue due to the constriction in traffic lanes. In contrast, Councilman Johnson's idea will make Washington Avenue a lot safer while maintaining a safe, smooth flow of vehicular traffic. I support his concept 100% and urge the committee to oppose 220523 and to maintain 5 traffic lanes on Washington Avenue. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Maynard, will you please call the next witness?
The next witness to testify is Linda Evans, also on 523 as always.
Hello, my name is Linda Evans, and I am speaking in opposition to Bill 220523. I am a 25-year resident of Christian Street, also known as South Philadelphia's Black Main Street, which is currently under consideration by the Philadelphia Historic Commission to become an historic district. As the Preservation Alliance indicated in the nomination, Christian Street was developed as a residential extension of Washington Avenue, which was and continues to be a major industrial zone in the city. Like Council Member Johnson, I support the various safety improvements that are being recommended, but I also want Washington Avenue to remain a 5-lane road only throughout the 2nd District. Before I explain my rationale, I want to thank you, Council Member Johnson, for being extraordinarily courageous, for taking a tough position that has warranted a special interest group protesting at 17th and Washington this past Thursday. Then, 24 hours later, the local newspaper published an editorial titled that Kenyatta Johnson should stop blocking Washington Avenue safety plan. Then, the same day, The 100-year-old African American newspaper reports that a special interest group has been lobbying the mayor. Now, the mayor needs to focus on the level of violence in this city. That the mayor is overreaching his authority to make a decision for the very diverse constituency, which consists of multiple generational families, long-term residents like myself, seniors, businesses, new residents, African Americans, Asians, Caucasians, and Hispanics. At this hearing, I must recognize that Councilman Johnson, you have been catching a lot of hell for not looking out for your own interests or the interests of the newly formed lobbyists who have been throughout this district, but you've taken on the interests, the cares, and the concerns of the diverse constituency in Point Breeze, Grays Ferry, and the Graduate Hospital vicinity. In closing, Councilman Johnson and the members of this committee and all Philadelphia City Council, I want you to stay committed to Councilman Johnson's position. We can have safety within the 5-lane road in the 2nd District. Like you, my neighbors and I, we believe in safety, walkability. We want it friendly to pedestrians achieved on Washington Avenue. In truth, we know Washington Avenue, as well as Christian Street, are the only two-way streets in this community, and they are crucial for the commerce in these neighborhoods. Quite frankly, the one-way streets going north and south, as well as east and west, cannot take one more vehicle. Do you hear what I'm saying? Those small streets can't take not one more vehicle. If you eliminate the 5 lanes on Washington Avenue. Now, perhaps now, City Council, you will reduce some of them demolitions which have resulted, you have torn down a single-family dwelling, you have permitted a unit of, on my street, a 3-story house was torn down, 5 units, which used to be a single-family dwelling. 5 units now. Now tell me, everybody in that unit, guess what they want? They want a parking space. Yeah, they want a parking space on Christian Street. Okay? They want street-level garages. They want parking spaces. And now tell me, do you really plan to overpopulate the small streets with cars if you eliminate the five lanes of Washington Avenue?
Ms. Evans?
So in closing, safety improvement is possible with the 5 lanes as a councilman member recommended, and I know it's all possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Maynard, can you call the next witness?
The next witness is Melissa Robbins.
Good afternoon, Councilman Thomas. Good afternoon, fellow Philadelphian taxpayers. My name is Melissa Robbins, and I am testifying in opposition to Bill number 220523. Thank you to all who are testifying today who decided to take a stand and fight for your families and your community. I'd like to thank Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson for understanding his assignment of true democracy. When it was understood that residents of 30, 40, and 50 years and beyond were being deliberately shut out of decision-making process of minimizing Washington Avenue between the Delaware River and the Schuylkill River from 5 lanes down to a 2-way road, he listened. He listened to the taxpayers who purchased their homes in an area and in a time which the area was deemed an undesirable place to live. These taxpayers do not possess the level of access to technology. They're not on Twitter, Slack, or LinkedIn. They do not come with Ivy League access or experience. They have, however, raised their families for decades on these blocks. They clearly see themselves being bought out, pushed out, bullied out, manipulated, and muted. Oddly enough, they say that they stand against the racial hatred and anti-Blackness that the Republican Party stands for. However, their actions say different. These are the lead drivers of the minimizing of Washington Avenue, the Bike Coalition in Fifth Square. They were not interested in including Black and brown residents in the conversation. How does one move into your community and not care about your children or their legacy to maintain home ownership and build wealth? Unfortunately, some wealthy white developers who identify as progressive, inclusive, liberal, and left-leaning are the very ones with these groups who are the drivers of gentrification. Washington Avenue is an emergency evacuation route. It's a major snow route. It's a commercial corridor. It provides immediate access to Southwest and parts of West Philadelphia to those of us who take 95 south down from the greater Northeast. Buses, tractor trailers, delivery trucks all frequent this route daily. Residents who live citywide access 9th Street for weekend shopping. If we minimize this major thoroughfare, there will be consequences. Commercial vehicles pushed into smaller streets will eventually compromise an already weakened infrastructure. If the real concern is the child's safety, is a child more likely to ride or play on Washington Avenue or on the side streets that will increase traffic flow if drivers are pushed from Washington Avenue? Real solutions: speed bumps, red light cameras, extended time for pedestrian crossing, repaving, reflective roadway markings, and a set speed limit not to exceed 40 miles per hour. This worked for Roosevelt Boulevard, and the number of pedestrian fatalities decreased significantly. In closing, I ask that each member of this committee consider your own community and ask yourself, what would it feel like to be harassed and manipulated out of your home or business by those who are willing to create a crisis simply to generate the outcome that fits their agenda? I ask you to maintain 5 lanes to protect the current business owners and the existing long-term residents and Black and brown residents. Thank you all. I hope that you go along with Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson's plan to maintain 5 lanes on Washington Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Maynard, will you please call the next witness?
The next witness is Brandon Washington on 523.
Hello, how you doing, everybody? Thanks for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to support the remain for the 5 lanes to remain. I believe the previous speaker stressed every point on why modification of that area would not be good for the community. I think it would definitely be of detriment to businesses in that corridor, along with diverting all that traffic to where the residents reside. And I mean, it's hard to come after that, like the previous speaker, because she stressed every point, and not only that, she offered solutions. So I'm in support of Councilman Kenyatta's solution. That's all.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Maynard. Can you call the next witness, please?
The next witness to hear from is Eve Lewis, commenting on 523.
The participant is not connected.
Thanks, Modesto. The next witness to hear from is Gail Harrington.
Mrs. Harrington is not connected, Dave.
Good to know. The next witness is Samara Johnson.
Hi, my name is Samara Johnson, and I'm against Bill 220523. I am for 5 lanes remaining on Washington Avenue. I've been living at 1625 Christian Street since 1999. Constantly, I'm driving eastbound and westbound on Washington Avenue, plus using the middle lane as access to different commercial stores on Washington Avenue. I have never felt unsafe driving on Washington Avenue. If anything, we should be concerned about South Street, which has the had the major crime that just occurred. And again, I am for Councilman Kenyatta's proposal. Thank you.
And the next witness we'll hear from is Lynn Johnson.
My name is Lynn Johnson, and I currently I just want to inform everyone that I am against the bill 220523. And I am interested in keeping the 5 lanes to remain on Washington Avenue in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19146. And that's it. I'm just definitely interested in keeping 5 lanes on Washington Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Clerk, moving forward, if you can just call the next witness to testify, that would be appreciated.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The next witness is Rolanda King. Rolanda King.
To the street and services members of the committee. My name is Rolanda King. I am speaking on the behalf of the bill 220523. Secondly, I would like to thank Councilman Kenyatta Johnson for your safety plan. And I am in favor of keeping and maintaining east and west bounds of Washington Avenue, a 5-lane. These groups, for example, the Bike Coalition, Fish Square, and the like, with their money power, it appears that they have influence over the city's landscape and can make one feel overwhelmed and blighted. We know them, but they do not know us by name and cannot see their preposterous idea of turning Washington Avenue into a 3-way lane. It is a dire disaster. As a pertinent and logically speaking, as a longtime resident, have always crossed Washington Avenue when the railroad trains were up and running, up and down Washington Avenue for 100+ years. We have seen, as we are experiencing the influx of new residential housing complex going up and single homes as well, and along with the Washington Avenue corridor. This is a result in the area. This resulted in the area becoming more denser number of people moving into the area. Washington Avenue was once all commercial and a vibrant industrial corridor. We are clear they do not see us as their brother or sisters, or are not our brothers or sisters. More importantly, most of them do not originate from Philadelphia or South Philadelphia areas in these communities either. I was raised and lived in these neighborhoods for over 50+ years. These changes will impact us all. First and foremost, Washington Avenue has been a major thoroughfare, emergency route, and quintessential traffic diet for South Philadelphia residents and businesses. I ask this of you all to take into account, how is it that we pay the most and continue to receive less in city services while others continue to benefit off the backs of its poor and longtime residents and neighbors? How many times must we stand by and allow special interest groups with money, political power, continue to remove us from our communities and neighborhoods? They do not hope or need faith when they have accumulated money, power, and influence. When they just don't see us either. nor does the city of Philadelphia, particularly some of our elected officials, stand by closing down our poor performing, underfunded, lack of necessary resources in these neighborhood schools that force our children and grandchildren to cross Washington Avenue to attend other schools. Where were these folks when we fought police department, safety committee for safe corridors along Washington Avenue? And if it was so dangerous, why haven't we heard from them before that? Let's be clear. The residents of these communities and myself have volunteered to ensure our children will be safe crossing to and from Washington Avenue, going and coming from school. Underfunded, lack of necessary.
Thank you for your testimony. The next witness we'll hear from, the next person on public comment is Annette Randolph.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ms. Randolph.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Good afternoon, committee and honorable council persons. I'm speaking on behalf of Bill 220523, in which I oppose of. Hello, my name is Annette Randolph. I stand in agreement with Councilman Kenyatta Johnson's proposition. I support installing needed safety protection along Washington Avenue, which includes things like speed cushions, curve cuts, better lighting, and traffic signals, more school crossing guards at key locations to make sure all children get across the road safely. I truly believe that these safety improvements can be done along with keeping Washington Avenue a 5-lane road. Only throughout the 2nd Council District. Lastly, excuse me, I am the fourth generation at the same property on 20th and Ellsworth Street, which is the same phone number, 1 block over from Washington Avenue. My great-grandfather made their living working on Washington Avenue. My children and I went to the schools safely across Washington Avenue. Most recently, my grandson has crossed Washington Avenue safely in the 3rd grade, with current crossing guard at 17th and Washington Avenue, who has been there over 5 years. And affectionately, his name is known as Uncle Dave by the kids. 5 lanes will allow all traffic, trucks, etc. to move safely. Keeping all 5 lanes will always allow emergency vehicles to get where they need to go. Save lives, funeral processions, vehicle breakdown. And I also want to state that I am the co-block captain on Ellsworth Street. I am the president of the Friends of the Concert Garden. I also am the one that called the Right to Know people when they said there were so many accidents on Washington Avenue. Calling the Right to Know people, I have the documentations. When the accidents was there was only 56 total accidents. The Right to Know people do also.
Yes. Please wrap up your testimony.
Say that again.
Please wrap up your testimony.
Sure, I'm sorry. So I just want to let you know that the Right to Know people, when there is an accident or anything, when you call the police, that document and everything goes to the Right to Know people. So I just stand with our Councilman Johnson, and I appreciate him for standing for the community. Thank you.
The next person on public comment is Jermaine Curry.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jermaine Curry, a 40-plus year resident in the 1000 block of Bouvier Street, and I oppose to the bill. I definitely want to thank Councilman Johnson for everything he's been doing to try to keep it safe and keep the 5 lanes. I live right off of Washington Avenue. There's not a lot of accidents. It definitely is an emergency corridor, so shrinking it down to less than 5 lanes absolutely makes no sense. It would just, like everybody said before, it would just bring big trucks and stuff into the smaller streets, which would just damage more of the streets. Our streets are already horrible, so we don't need any more of that, and that's all I have.
And the next person on public comment is Cheryl Mobley Stimson.
Hello?
Hello.
I heard my first name. I didn't hear the last name. I just heard a beep.
We're waiting for testimony on Cheryl Mobley Stimson.
Yeah, that's me. For some reason that there was an interruption in what you were saying, but I'll start. Good afternoon, Chairman Squilla, members of the Streets and Services Committee, members of City Council, fellow advocates here, in support of Councilman Kenyatta Johnson's safety plan for Washington Avenue that would maintain the 5 lanes. I am Dr. Cheryl Mobley Stimson, and I do oppose Bill 22053. I'm a 4th-generation resident who raised a 5th in the same impacted area being discussed. Again, I'm in support of Councilman Johnson's position, and here's why. Safety has been and continues to be paramount in our consideration of the best interest for our community. And it's already been noted that Washington Avenue is an emergency thoroughfare. Our community has endured decades of trauma. And we continue to survive. But at the same time, all along, we felt like our under-resourced community has been left behind, only to now find an influx of changes once the area has now become gentrified. But these changes have not been fully communicated with the community. Everybody has not been reached, and most people who will be ultimately impacted still don't know what's going on. What continues to be interesting to me is that the city is able to find each and every one of us in our living room at our residences when discussing bills, fees, and fines. But even with our block captain structure, our ward structure, and I am the committee person in 3620, there's still so much information that escapes us and comes down from the power that be. And all of these changes are taking place. And when we talk about change, which is making a difference or replacement, allow me for the record to state that the city's change management solutions have fallen short. Instead of allowing residents to participate in transformation as an opportunity to innovate and differentiate, we instead have been left on the outside. I just want to say one more thing in closing. My experience with Washington Avenue has been as a child. I've crossed from the south side of Washington Avenue to the north side. My family's been in the same church since the late 1800s, early 1900s.
The next person we'll hear from is Thelma Smallwood.
Good afternoon. My name is Thelma Smallwood. I want to say, first of all, that I oppose 220523 bill. And I also want to thank the council, and I want to thank Councilman Kenyatta Johnson for his safety plan that will protect and help Washington Avenue be a safer place. And I also want to say I question the logic of downsizing one of the main arteries that connects South Philadelphia to Southwest Philly and West Philly. I don't understand. I think this would create a traffic jam that would greatly slow down travel times for people trying to get to the university, the hospital, the work, appointments, etc. And I also want to say, I think that downsizing Washington Avenue from 5 lanes to 3 cause more traffic to drive through our neighborhood streets, which could be a danger to the mothers and children and create more potholes and corrosion to the infrastructure of the city streets. And what about the impact on the businesses on the avenue? Many businesses rely on the front Washington Avenue side of their deliveries and supplies. Also, I want to say I support I'm sorry, I just got lost there for a minute. I think that I support the traffic that utilizes the avenue, and I think that it should remain as 5 lanes. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smallwood. The next person we'll hear from is Barbara Candia. I apologize for that last name pronunciation.
Hello, my name is Barbara Candia, and thank you to all the committee and Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. I'm opposed to Bill 220523. I was born and raised in South Philadelphia, 20th and Christian, and am now presently the owner of the home of Mr. Julian Abel at 15th and Christian. And I have traveled to Barrett Junior High, crossing Washington Avenue when I was going to junior high school, and we were always safe, even when that slaughterhouse was there on Washington Avenue, if anyone can remember that. But I think condensing to 2 lanes would be traumatic in all areas. The congestion that it would cause, the delays it would cause, it would be utterly ridiculous to have 2 lanes with all of this traffic. I can't see how the planning of this makes any sense at all, actually. I hope that with the committee, I hope they'll consider being opposed to this with the additional population that's going to be in this area, which is going up everywhere from in every area around here. It's going to be an influx of more vehicles, and it's going to just cause more and more congestion and delays, and I think it would be ridiculous to name just a few of the issues that would be coming up. And thanks to everyone else who added all of the other issues and concerns. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person we'll hear from is Victor Grant.
Victor Grant, are you here? Are you present? Mr. Maynard, can we move on to the next person?
Yes, of course. The next person is Irene Grant. We don't seem to have the Grants.
Irene Grant, are you present?
Thank you.
Hold on, Dave. Hold on, Mr. Maynard. I hear someone.
Is Victor Grant.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Victor Grant, president of the Tasker Street Missionary Baptist Church Community Outreach. Speaking.
Are you here?
I'm here.
Mr. Grant, there's a delay. You'll turn. Mr. Grant, there's
Hello,
a delay.
I'm here.
The next person is Irene Grant.
Wait.
Hello? Hello, I'm here.
We hear you both. We hear you both, Irene and Victor. If Irene can state her state her name for the record and begin with her testimony, and then Victor, if you can state your name for the record and begin with your testimony when Irene is done, that will be greatly appreciated.
Mr. Chair, apparently it looks like the connection, they hung up the call. We'll try calling them back.
We have a lot of witnesses. We'll get back to them. Mr. Maynard, can you please state the name of the next witness so they can begin their testimony?
The next person we'll hear from is Reverend Jerome Fordham.
Name. Good evening. I am Reverend Jerome Fordham. Thank you, Mr. Chair Thomas, for this opportunity to speak in support of our opposition to this bill 220523. We are in opposition against this bill. I support Councilman Johnson, Kenyatta Johnson, effort to 5-lane to avoid extreme congestion on that Washington Avenue for safety reasons. Number one, we have a hospital zone there for emergency vehicles like the ambulance, transporting, connecting to the University of Pennsylvania Hospital and CHOP, the Children's Hospital. Also the Penn Presbyterian Hospital. Also Graduate Hospital. The emergency route that Washington Avenue provides is for police activities, fire trucks, emergency snow removal, evacuations, and just remember, just over a year ago, that the flooding of the South Street Bridge, Washington Avenue was used for clean out. It remained 5 lanes. It must remain 5 lanes for the safety and the usage of this avenue. I am opposing that these progressives who comes here do not have any skin in this game. They just want money. They want to stack and pack people of color. Let's keep the city safe. We have to keep our city safe and keep our community safe by having safety on Washington Avenue. I want to thank the Councilman Johnson for his effort, and we oppose this bill 220523. We oppose it. 220523. Thank you so very much. And I want to thank everyone who has spoken before me. They were absolutely great. I thank you all for your time. Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to speak is Madeline Shikoma. I apologize for that last name pronunciation.
Can you hear me?
We can hear
Hello?
you.
All right. My name is Madeline Shikoma. I'm speaking on behalf of Bill 220532. It's concerning, I'd like to give thanks to Councilman Johnson for his support for us for this bill and to state the following. I'm here to plead for the 6,000 plus lives that are being ignored by Otis. These people reside in South and Southwest Philadelphia. Washington Avenue is the only evacuation and emergency route for the residents of South and Southwest Philadelphia living near the refinery, which is now closed. This evacuation line is a lifeline for Washington Avenue. Hello? Oh, I was speaking.
We can hear you. Please continue with your testimony.
Okay, Office of Emergency Management, who is responsible for evacuation routes, states that a special evacuation plan has been developed for communities with unique needs, such as South and Southwest Philadelphia, where there are several sports, entertainment venues, and a major refinery and international airport. Otis claims that the road diet proposed for Washington Avenue is about saving lives. Whose lives? They are well aware of the fact that Washington Avenue is the only evacuation emergency route for 6,000 people of South and Southwest Philadelphia who live near the refinery. According to the Environmental Integrity Project, the majority of residents living there within a 3-mile radius of refinery site live in South and Southwest Philadelphia. 61% people of color. Since its creation, it has had numerous chemical spills, explosions, and accidents, and the latest one in August of 2020. The city of Philadelphia has done little or nothing to protect these residents. It has practiced systemic racism. The Otis plan is a continuation of systemic racism. Black lives matter. In fact, everybody's lives should matter. The Environmental Integrity Project found that the cleanup activities at the site will take 4 to 5 years to complete. In the meantime, it is still producing emissions like benzene and carcinogen that exceeds the EPS level. Otis' plan is to reduce traffic to protect bicycles. There are over 6,000 residents in South and Southwest Philadelphia that are affected by this refinery. How are they to escape a catastrophe on this road? How are hundreds of fire trucks to reach the refinery in case of fire?
Mr. Coma, please wrap up your testimony.
Oh, okay. It is clear that those lives that others are concerned about is not the black and white lives residing in South and Southwest Philadelphia. We demonstrated how a lost lane of traffic will affect the traffic. Please protect this evacuation route for the 6,000 plus people who live in South and Southwest Philadelphia. It would be better and safer to divert the bikes, not the vehicles, to the small streets. All right. Thank you. All right.
The next person we'll hear from is Dolores Kennedy.
She is not on the line, David, but we do have Victor Grant online.
Let's hear Mr. Grant. Mr. Grant, begin your testimony.
Mr. Grant.
Thank you.
Mr. Grant speaking.
Please begin your testimony, sir.
Okay, my name is Victor Grant, president of the tax.
The next person we'll hear from is Dolores Kennedy.
Victor Grant. I'm the president of the Tasker Street Missionary Baptist Church Community Outreach Corporation. I'm here to speak on Bill 220523 concerning Washington Avenue. I thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to thank Councilman Yad. I'm speaking, sir.
Mr. Grant, you're hearing the sound from the audio, and please turn down your audio in the background. You're live. There's a delay in the recording.
Oh, thank you. My name is Victor Grant, president of the TSMBC Community Outreach Corporation. I'm here to speak on Bill 220523 concerning Washington Avenue. I thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to thank Councilman Kenyatta Johnson for his support to repave Washington Avenue and for Washington Avenue to remain 5 lanes. My reason is for the changing the Washington Avenue to roadway. I am retired SEPTA bus driver. And bus driver, and most part of my life I have lived near Washington Avenue. My experiences as a bus driver is when I was driving through Washington Avenue, and during the winter storms, the city made it possible by removing the piles of snow on the sidewalk so that the buses were able to move on without difficulties. If there is a lane change, this will cause a problem due to the spacing, and there will be traffic delays. Washington has been an alternate route for emergency from the expressway to 95 and vice versa. If there are changes take place on Washington Avenue, there will not be emergency routes for the oversized vehicles to exit 95 and Washington
Grant,
Avenue.
please wrap up your testimony.
We will come throughout the area. And again, changes that they're planning to make, it will be a change. If you go to 16th and Snyder with the changes and look at the traffic.
Mr. Grant, please wrap up your testimony.
That was great, sir. Thank you again for allowing me to share my concerns. Thank you.
Good day, sir. The next person we'll hear from is Victoria Harrington. Gail Harrington, excuse me.
Hello?
Hello, Ms. Harrington. Please begin your testimony.
Okay, thank you. My name is Gail Harrington. I am here to support Councilman Johnson's Bill 220523, and I support improvements in the Washington Avenue, but I do not think that reducing those lanes is a good thing. First of all, because it's only going to increase, in my opinion, increase the congestion in the area. I live right near, I'm a bicyclist. That's another thing. I don't think it's going to be helpful to bicyclists myself, because I just got off my bike. I ride at least Washington Avenue at least 2 or 3 times a week. I like the bike lanes on the outside, but that merging of bicycles and other vehicles into lanes is a hazard as far as I'm concerned. There are other places in the city where they have that, and it's always very tenuous if you are trying to work through those lanes where the buses or other things are traveling. It's not safe, and it's anxiety provoking. So the congestion is a problem because I think you cut down the lanes. There's a lot of traffic that travels down that street. And as others have said, emergency vehicles are going to be a problem. And if there's a backup or an accident or congestion, it's only going to increase the amount of congestion and traffic on smaller streets on which I live right off of Washington Avenue. So I am supporting Councilperson Johnson's proposal and that bill. I do not want to see them change Washington Avenue from 5 lanes. It should stay that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Harrington. The next person we'll hear from is Dolores Kennedy.
Yes. I'm here to support Johnson's plea to not close Washington Avenue. I had a lot to say, but my main objective is that Washington Avenue is a milestone for South Philadelphia people, neighborhoods. We've given up South Street. We've given up Passyunk Avenue. We need Washington Avenue to stay 4 lanes. It's just it's like a milestone for the South Philadelphia neighborhoods, not just for the businesses that's there, but for the people also. I'm not gonna just go on and on about it. I'm just supporting Johnson for his just his will to stand up and just speak for the neighborhood of South Philadelphia, for the older senior citizens also. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. The next person we'll hear from is Norman Best. Mr. Best?
Participant is not connected.
Thanks, Modesta. We'll move on to LaDonna Butts. Ms. Butts?
Ms. Butts, it's also not connected, David.
Okay. What about Erica Bonet?
Yes, I'm here. It's Erica Bonnet. I am on the call to say that I am in opposition of turning Washington Avenue into a 2-lane disaster. It's going to strangle that avenue, which everybody's already said it. It is the artery that is sandwiched between Delaware and Broad. We have watched during the PGW sewer line construction right across the street from me at 816 Washington. We are the proprietors of Center City Pretzel Company. We've been there for 41 years. We have watched that entire show go down with PGW and cars and emergency vehicles trying to get around that. And that's temporary. Imagine making this permanent. I think a crisis has been created that doesn't even exist. I think we are throwing terms like public safety to see if it'll stick. And I also don't know when green has always meant go. Red on crossing a street has always meant not go. I mean, I don't know when that has ever changed. It is not a dangerous street. And nobody's really talking about this part of this. 2-hour parking on Washington Avenue. As a business owner, that's a disaster. As a business owner, we cannot run a business effectively or efficiently if every 2 hours we have to run outside and jockey our cars. I am not a regular business. I am not a corner store. I have people that work in there who can't do what I do. We manufacture, we bake. There are specific people that have to do that job. If I have to circle around the block for 20 minutes because I can't find a spot and I have to leave somebody behind and they run out of pretzels, what do? Do we lock the door? They have to wait until I get back? This whole thing is very, very inefficient. I'm not going to yammer on. I will leave it there for all of you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next person we'll hear from is Victoria Duval.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon. I would like to thank you for this time.
Ms. Duval, you'll find it helpful to turn down the audio behind you.
Okay, wait a minute. I'll turn it down. Okay, I turned it down. I did. No audio is behind me. No audio is behind me. My name is Victoria Duval. I resign. My name is Victoria Duval. I resign at 2413 Kimball Street. I'm a longtime resident. I resign at 2413 Kimball Street. I'm a longtime resident. And I oppose Bill. And I oppose Bill 220.
Mute the hearing and talk to us. We can hear you. There's a time delay between what you can hear online or on the TV and the actual live meeting. Modesto, do we still have Ms. Duval?
She is still connected, David, but we're not getting any response.
Okay, let's move on. The next person to testify is Nicole Brunette, testifying on 523.
Hello, this is Nicole.
Please begin your testimony.
Thank you, Councilmember Squilla and members of the Streets and Services Committee for letting me testify today. My name is Nicole Brunet, and I'm the Policy Director for the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia. I'm testifying today in support of a handful of bills. As a representative of the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia, I would like to record and show that we support bills 220420, 220453, 220495, 220505, 220518, and 220523. Designated bike lanes increase ridership because it defines lane for cyclists to stay safe and separate from cars. Automated red light enforcement proves to reduce speeding and therefore limit the risk of vehicle crashes and vehicle deaths. We support Councilmember Squilla's bill to update the parking and loading legislation along Washington Avenue and allow for additional traffic calming measures to be implemented, also known as the mixed lane plan introduced by Otis in March of this year. We are disappointed that there isn't an amendment to include the 2nd District in Squilla's bill. I would like to point out that the majority of surveys, both digital and paper, respondents support reducing the number of lanes on Washington Avenue. Over 2,000 residents in District 1 and District 2 support making Washington Avenue safer. Over 800 emails have been sent to Council and Mayor Kemeny in support of this bill. There is tremendous support for Otis's proposal and Councilmember Squilla's bill, that is 220523. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you. The next witness is Hannah Sabri. I apologize about the last name pronunciation, I suspect.
Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Sabri. I want to thank you for the opportunity to express my opinion in solidarity with all the aforementioned callers who are in opposition to Bill 220523. I am a friend and family member of residents, longtime residents around 12th and Christian and 19th and Christian. I feel the Washington Street corridor should remain as it currently is. To change it will have a very adverse effect on the community. It will create more traffic for the existing community, consumers, and businesses. It will cause safety risks for the other streets, as well as interfering with the emergency route. I'm for the repairing and other safety measures that are being talked about, traffic signals, more crossing guards, keeping the bike lanes. I'm against the speed cushions. And I just say, it should remain a 4-lane highway because it would be unsafe not to. Thank you very much for this chance to speak with you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next person we'll hear from is Chris Hinckley. Chris, are you there?
Not on the line, David.
Thank you. We'll move on to Mark Hensley.
Not on the line, David.
Okay. Do we have Alex BokUlich? And we'll do everyone a favor and avoid mispronouncing that. Alex, are you there?
Also not on the line, David.
Eric Underhill.
Also not on the line, David. The next person would be Jenny Chen.
Will Fenton, Juan Gazario, and Sebastian Bacali are not available either?
They are dropped.
Okay.
Calls, David. Yes.
So Jenny Chen was the next one.
Hello, my name is Jenny Chen. I'm a community organizer with Fiat Lead. I'm here today in opposition to Bill 220523. For the past 3 years, I've been working together with small business owners on Washington Avenue as part of the anti-displacement fight at the Huaben Plaza. Fiat Lead and the small businesses we work with are extremely concerned about the current legislation to narrow and reduce the number of lanes on the eastern end of Washington Avenue in Councilmember Mark Spillow's district. Washington Avenue has served as a main thoroughfare that's easy for people to get to and across. That is what has allowed so many small businesses to thrive and serve a huge customer base. This bill and Otis's plan would increase congestion, which is not just a matter of losing convenience. Like we've heard from other business owners already, increased traffic and drive times means higher costs for delivery and disincentives for customers to shop in this part of the city. Ultimately, this cost is put on small businesses who are at risk of losing revenue and shutting down. For Philly, that can mean losing sources of essential goods and services, losing places with cultural significance to many communities, and losing a key part of our tax base. The lane reduction plan also doesn't adequately show how trucks are going to safely and efficiently unload. After 11th Street got repaved, loading trucks have basically just blocked traffic, forcing drivers to jump into opposing traffic to get around them. Putting drivers on Washington Avenue in the same dilemma is going to negate the safety benefits that Otis claims his lane reduction proposal is going to have. On behalf of the businesses that make up the character and economic core of Washington Avenue, I urge Council to preserve and protect Washington Avenue as a 5-lane commercial corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. The next witness we'll hear from is Claire Jaffe.
Include all of. Hello, can everybody hear me?
Claire, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. State your name and begin your testimony.
Awesome. Good afternoon. My name is Claire Jaffe, and I'm speaking in support of bill number 220523 as a near neighbor. I urge Councilmember Johnson to amend this legislation to include all of Washington Ave. I use all modes of transportation on Washington Avenue. I bike, walk, bus, and drive. I support this project along with thousands of residents from across South Philadelphia who are relying on you to improve conditions and save lives. This project will provide more safe options for getting around with very little impact to driving traffic times. However, keeping Washington Avenue as is will only further endanger everyone. As Philly's own Vision Zero website says, traffic deaths are preventable and unacceptable. And I agree. If the city is promoting Vision Zero, we must implement this plan to further prevent traffic deaths. In community meetings, Otis has repeatedly countered every single point that's been brought up by this opposition today. It has been said that the supporters of this bill are not compromising, but after years of community engagement, this Otis plan is the compromise. This decision is critical. It's taken over a decade to study and propose changes to Washington Avenue, and the decision you make today will continue to significantly impact the community for at least another decade to come. I thank Councilmember Squilla's commitment to road safety with this legislation and urge Councilmember Johnson to trust Otis's expertise and amend Squilla's legislation to include all of Washington Avenue, so we can invest in a safer and more equitable future for everyone. Thank you for the time to testify.
Thank you. The next person we'll hear from is Brian Schreffler. I butchered all of that inevitably. Hello?
Street. Hi, Brian Schreffler here. I live right off of Washington on 11th. I am for the plan, the 3-lane plan that resulted from years of study that shows that everyone would be safer, pedestrians, motorists, and cyclists. I used to cycle Washington Ave. It's a no man's land for cyclists. It's very dangerous. But getting to the main point, I think the thing that's overlooked is, or there's a false conclusion being drawn that shortening down the lanes or compressing them down to 3 would result in more traffic. Studies and implementation around the world, Copenhagen, Finland, London, different cities in the U.S., shows the opposite. Yes, it is counterintuitive, but it does work. You expand lanes anywhere, whether it's highways or avenues, major thoroughfares in any city, you are going to increase, not alleviate traffic and congestion. Again, this plan, the 3-lane plan, is the safest for everyone. That is what we should move towards, what a decade of study and, as other people have pointed out, compromise have led to. I want all of my neighbors, no matter how they're getting around, to be safer. And another false narrative is that it will hurt local businesses. Let's get more people utilizing a mode of transportation that takes cars off the road. Isn't that what we want? Less congestion. Those cyclists, people you're keeping alive, same with pedestrians, same with motorists, with the 3-lane plan, are going to enjoy Washington Ave much more. We make the city safer for cyclists. We make it safer for everybody. This is not ignoring any resident in South Philadelphia. We want everybody to enjoy it. The other thing, the other false narrative I've heard throughout many comments is that this would impact the emergency evacuation plans. It's not going to be a normal highway or avenue during snow emergencies or any type of emergency. So it's a very unfounded conclusion. Yes, thank you for letting me voice my concerns. The safest option is the one we should go with. That is what we should do with every city. Like, we abandoned safe injection sites in South Philly and Kensington because of misguided backlash. Thank you very much.
The next person we'll hear from is Eamon Kenny. Eamon, are you there?
Not connected with you.
Thanks, Modesto. We'll move on to Andrew Davies.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Maynard and honorable council members. My name is Andrew Davies, and I am testifying in support of bill number 220523. And I'm also asking Councilmember Johnson to amend the bill to include our district. I speak today as a lifelong Philly resident, a parent, and a neighborhood volunteer. The traffic experts at Otis have studied Washington Avenue and done community outreach for almost 10 years. They know it is highly dangerous and can be safer and better for everyone. The experts agree a safer Washington Avenue is needed. 2 votes were done in our community about this issue, one online and one by paper. In both of them, over 70% of respondents favored the safer option. The community agrees a safer Washington Avenue is needed. Councilmember Johnson, you have renamed many streets to teach our children and honor the past. I am asking you to help repave one street to protect our children and ensure their future. I thank Councilmember Squilla's commitment to roadway safety with this bill and implore Councilmember Johnson to listen to the majority of his constituents and the experts at Otis and amend the bill to include our district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person we'll hear from is Ernest Menold. Ernest, are you there?
Ernest is not connected.
Thank you. Do we have Ben Kalina?
Our next participant is Will Tung, David.
Okay. Mr. Tung, if you could state your name and begin your testimony.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Will Tung. I am in support of bill number 220523 and also ask Councilmember Johnson to amend the bill to include the 2nd Council District. I speak today as a resident, parent, and firefighter. Speaking unofficially from my personal experience as a firefighter, 3 lanes is as wide as Lehigh or Allegheny Avenues in North Philly and 52nd Street in West Philly, and with a center turning lane would still function well as a route for emergency vehicles. Most importantly, a withdrawal from Otis's original plan means the community negotiated emergency signal preemption, a life-saving device that gives the green light for emergency vehicles, is in jeopardy. Speaking as a parent, my daughter's school is among one of the 6 schools and 5 RCOs asking council for a reconfiguration of Washington Avenue to make the road safer for all users, especially for pedestrians. As I see news of school children dying on national TV due to government inaction surrounding guns, I am reminded of how my own daughter and Councilmember Johnson's inaction to keep this roadway dangerous. In 2010, 2-year-old Derek Martinez died walking with his mother at 6th and Washington. In 2012, 11-year-old Samantha Nguyen, or Tanya, died in a sidewalk near 8th and Washington. In 2014, 29-year-old Sheena White died crossing 15th and Washington. Her 8-year-old son was found by police trying to revive her. In 2017, 83-year-old Sarah Wood died crossing 24th and Washington. And in 2020, a 31-year-old man died crossing Broad in Washington. That all of these pedestrians were killed by drivers, most during this district council member's tenure, and that roadway safety is still not the highest priority, shows either a lack of compassion or knowledge. I thank Councilmember Squilla's commitment to roadway safety with this legislation and ask Councilmember Johnson to listen to the road safety experts at Otis and to end this tide of roadway deaths today to prevent the next one. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next person we'll hear from is Tom Donatucci. Tom, are you there?
Tom is not connected.
Okay. We'll move on to Marissa Post. Do we have Marissa Post?
The next participant we have is Lynn Parlesis.
Lynn, are you there? Modesto, do we still have Lynn?
We have Lynn on, but I'm not getting a response.
Okay. Let's move on for right now, I guess. Do we have Gabe Moser?
You do. Yes, you do.
Gabe,
good evening, everyone. I'm Gabriel Moser Pacek, president of the Washington Avenue Business Association of Businesses and Residents, minority that lives here on Washington Avenue, and work for a minority-owned business on Washington Avenue. I speak on behalf of over 4,000 people who have signed our petitions in the last 7 months, and 107 businesses who are in opposition of 220.
Gabe, did we lose you? Modesto, do we know what's going on? Ah, there we go.
Can you still hear me?
We can again. We didn't there for a bit.
Okay. This roadway does not even reach top 50 most times of the year. What we end up having is we have businesses who are scared of losing business. We have residents who are having a hard time finding parking. We have businesses who will be having a hard time finding parking. Bigger things are police department, fire department. They've been barred from these meetings. They can't speak publicly, but I've talked to them. We actually service most of their vehicles here. Their opinion is that it's going to drastically reduce their response time. Any single person that uses this roadway, it leaves absolutely no room for error. If anyone uses it and fails to abide by the lawful use, which is very common because there's absolutely no enforcement, if anyone parks in the middle and we have both lanes congested, where will fire trucks go? Nowhere. They just won't. So we'll have a dramatic reduction in response time. Police and fire department, they both stated as such, but they can't be on these lines in order to talk to us. They've been barred from these conversations. Past that, the 2-hour parking. We're supposed to run a business, and we're supposed to pay our employees every 2 hours to move their vehicles, which we find already completely unfair. I mean, COVID wasn't hard enough. Now we have to move on to this and make it so that our employees need to get paid every 2 hours to move their car 5 times a day. I don't think that's fair for us. We were the backbone of this city. We've been around for hundreds of years. This is a multi-generational road. And we worked during the pandemic and kept pushing because we were considered essential. And now that the city finds us to be an annoyance, they want to add 13 feet of bike lane, and they want to hurt our businesses and tell us that we aren't needed. All right. And anyone that says otherwise, you can look at Venice Boulevard in California, where they had shown before COVID hit
Moser,
that a road diet took out over 20 businesses. All right. I'll be wrapping up shortly. They took out over 20 businesses in less than 2 years after the road diet was implemented. Anyone can look this up. Every single thing from NACDO, from the Federal Highway Traffic and Safety, they all show one thing, that this is a terrible road a terrible example of a road to use for a road diet. Thank you for your time.
Council support. Do you have additional folks available to testify at the moment?
We have Marissa Post.
Okay. Ms. Post, if you're connected, let's state your name and begin your testimony.
Yeah, and I just want to alert council, thanks for having me here today, that I was never joined into the meeting, but I was called, so I'm a little concerned that some of the other people calling in to oppose these changes to Washington Ave didn't get a chance to testify. That may be why so many people seem to have not been on the line. But I called in and they did get me back on. So my name is Marissa Post. I'm an over 30-year resident of the neighborhood adjacent
to Washington Ave. I've lived adjacent to Washington Ave and also 5 blocks below. I'm also a parent and a member of the Palumbo High School School Advisory Committee. And I'm not going to repeat all of the same comments as many of the other people in opposition. It was nice to hear the older residents and hear a diverse community speak. But I do want to say that my main concern is that some of the efforts to add safety and collect data and information were not transparent. They were not inclusive. I belong to many groups, many RCOs. I go on social media, and these data points that are constantly repeated as representing the majority, it's just not accurate. I would also like to speak to the previous claims that schools were in support. They are not. Our school advisory committee was not in support. And once the principals were actually told what the quote-unquote safety plan they were asked to support was, they're not. In fact, they're still having problems at Palumbo on the 11th Street debacle, which causes many kids to get hit over and over again. They make announcements to watch out for the bikes. A few weeks ago, there was construction at 4th going west. All of the trucks then were coming onto Moymansing and 2nd. And I will tell you, I've spoken to a lot of neighbors that are not on social media, neighbors that maybe aren't connected to RCOs in Pennsport, and they're very, very upset. There is not this widespread support for this lane change. It is untenable, and it needs to be well thought out, not only for the businesses and residents, but for the safety of all. And I will say, once people understand what's being presented here, their opposition will only expand and intensify. So everybody should be really careful. Sure. Everybody should be really careful about thinking that once this is done, it's done. And it's not. If too many people are negatively affected, there's too many safety concerns added. Go put the first safety changes in and move from there. Thanks a lot.
Modesto, I believe we have Blair up next.
Thank you. I'm calling in concern and in support of not changing Washington Avenue. This has been termed as the safety of Washington Avenue, but at the expense of what? At the expense of the neighboring streets where thousands of voters live on Wharton, Ellsworth, Federal, Christian, Carpenter, Reed, Christian Street, Montrose Street, all the streets that are going to be impacted negatively by the increase in traffic of those avoiding Washington Avenue. These are streets that have thousands of voters and thousands of families, one-way streets, parked cars, and the increased traffic is going to be something that they have not planned for. Even if they were in support of the changes, they have not planned for the increase in traffic on their streets. So this is a problem without a solution without even needing a problem. And I believe that Councilman Johnson is listening to his constituents and is following through and doing an excellent job in representing his district. Thank you.
I believe we have Florence Mickens next.
Hello. Well, first let me say thank you to the committee for creating this opportunity for us to weigh in on this plan that has been in the works, as others have said, for many, many years. I currently live in Councilman Johnson's district. I'm on Christian Street. I grew up in Point Breeze. I lived for many years in Councilman Squilla's district near 11th and Wharton. So, yes, I'm through and through South Philadelphia. I know that this project has been in the works for years because I've been having conversations with various groups collecting information, collecting opinions about it for at least a decade. I am in support of Councilman Squilla's plan, and I hope that it will be expanded to the 2nd District. I am not in favor of retaining the 5-lane design that we currently have. The primary driver of unsafe conditions is high speed and volume. And I hear speaker after speaker saying, let's not do anything about the volume. And I don't hear people saying a lot about the fact that we need to do something about the speed. Washington Avenue has tremendously changed in the 40 years I've been going back and forth across it, because the use of the avenue has changed, right? There's a lot more retail business on it, whereas an early speaker mentioned, you used to have a lot of factories when we were kids crossing back and forth to Barrett. So I'm in favor of doing as much as we can to make the avenue as safe as we can. And I think we need to be realistic about the fact that this idea that we can do a little bit and test it and see, and then we can come back. This is Philadelphia. It takes decades to get anything like this done. If we squander this opportunity, it probably won't come again in my lifetime, and I'm not even trying to be dramatic about that. It just takes so long to get approval and consensus and to find the money for things. So I'm in favor of having Councilman Squilla's bill apply to both sides of Broad Street for Washington Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Council support. Do we have anyone else to testify?
Yes, we have Victoria online.
Okay. Victoria Duvall, if you'll state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
It's been said. Hello? Hello?
Please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Yes, Victoria Duval. And I'd like to thank Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. I'm a resident of 2413 Kimball Street, been a long-time resident for over 70 years. I won't go all into what I was going to base my testimony on, because all's been said. I'm about safety for others as well as the bikers and pedestrians. But me and my grandchildren are pedestrians also. Is protecting the safety of Washington Avenue pedestrians and bikers more important than the safety of me and my family members? We all agree to safety, but must be done without sacrificing the safety of others. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And tech staff, if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have reached out to everyone who registered and was confirmed for public comment. Is that correct?
That is our last public comments for today, David.
Thank you, tech team. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's definitely appreciated. I just want to take a moment before we conclude the public hearing to see if there are any members of this committee or anybody who is currently connected that wishes to make a comment or a statement based on the bills that we're going to be voting on shortly. Any members of the committee or any members of the public who did not get an opportunity to make a comment that wishes to comment, please feel free to speak up now. Okay, this concludes the public hearing of the committee. We will now go into the public meeting to consider the action to be taken on the bills before this committee today. Mr. Maynard, before we call roll, we will allow the tech staff to get a couple minutes to allow everybody that's currently connected to be disconnected.
Dave, can I ask you a couple questions? Or
Yes.
Are we off the air?
I don't think we are, council member.
No?
I think we're still
All
on air right now.
The list of bills that we're going to do.
Before we go into the public meeting, can we pause the live broadcast? Tech team, can you let us know if we could pause the live broadcast before we go into our public meeting?
Sure, we could pause the live broadcast, Mr. Chair.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your patience, and we are back in our Streets Committee hearing. If you're not aware, we have given everybody an opportunity to testify that wanted to testify. So this concludes the public hearing of the committee. We will now go into a public meeting to consider the action to be taken on the bills before us today. Mr. Maynard, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance will please indicate that you are present when your name is called. Also, please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on screen when you speak. Mr. Maynard.
Chair Thomas.
Present.
Vice Chair Squilla.
Present.
Councilmember Bass. Councilmember O.
Present.
Councilmember Brooks.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
And Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Thank you, colleagues, and thank you for your patience today as well as your flexibility. A quorum of the committee of the members are now present. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on amendments for the bills that are being considered today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer amendments to bill numbers 220245, 220247, and 220504. A copy of the amendments have been circulated. 220504. I'm sorry. A copy of the amendments have been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that these amendments be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Thank you for that motion. Chair again recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a single motion on bill number 220523.
I'd like to recognize Councilmember O for a comment.
Yes, thank you very much. I did listen to the testimony on our most contentious bill today, which is 220253. I am familiar with Washington Avenue. As a child, I went to Settlement Music School. My mother would take me down that road and stop by the Italian market. And I have been through that community, particularly in recent years to the Asian community, the Italian market, the Hispanic community there. I am not a district council person, and normally I don't, get involved in these type of things. I will say that I was contacted by many small businesses and communities, especially those that were Spanish speaking, Chinese, Vietnamese, and others. I also have a group of small businesses. Many of them are immigrant small businesses, but also African American. I did serve on the 18th Street, historic 18th Street YMCA board at one point in time. And I'm familiar with the churches and the schools. What I received from the people that contacted me was their concern, as was stated by many of the people who called in, that 95 and 76 are connected by Washington Avenue, and it is an industrial road. It's a commercial road. It's been that way, and the businesses have built up around that, employing many people who could not get a job otherwise or have employment except for the fact that they have restaurants and specialty stores, those type of things. I was very disturbed when during one of our business meetings, I ran into one of the leaders of the Mexican community who was asked to sign a petition and support a petition to repave Washington Avenue and have the sewers repaired. He did not know that there was any issues about narrowing the street at all. And once he learned that, he was surprised and went out, but he already signed a petition and things like that. And so we then went around, to his group and our group to go around and just ask the community, the non-English speaking community. We went out to the businesses, not only on Washington Avenue, but through the areas. And overwhelmingly, people did not want the streets to be narrowed. The larger businesses on the west side of Washington Avenue, of course, they receive large shipments. But even the smaller businesses that receive daily shipments, things like that coexist with the residents, they have established their lifestyle, their business in that area. So based on the information that I have received from them, and based on the testimony that I've heard today, I will be voting no on 220523. Thank you very much.
Thank you, council member. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for making the motion. I move that bill number 220523 be approved and reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended for the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Based on my count, that is one nay, and the rest of the members of the committee voted aye, so the bill passes. The chair again recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a single motion. Yes, chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for the record to the supporters that called in regarding this particular bill and supported me, just to clarify, the bill that's coming out of committee does not include the repaving within the 2nd Councilmanic District, which extends from 11th and Washington Avenue on the west side into 25th and Washington Avenue on the west side. The issues and concerns that we have been discussing with the Save Washington Avenue Coalition over the last several months revolve around the reducing of the lane, the more than 2,000 new units of development that will be developed along the west side of Washington Avenue, starting with the Bart Blackstein project at Broad and Washington Avenue and ending at 24th and Washington Avenue. But we also support traffic calming measures such as speed bumps and speed cushions, red light slow down measures, traffic light calming measures, but also making sure that the emergency lane, which is among 25th and Washington, among the Washington Avenue corridor, is also part of the process of making sure that it's a thoroughfare and that process is inclusive and conducive of everyone that's represented in Grays Ferry, Point Breeze, and the rest of the Houseville area. So I just want to clarify that of my position regarding this particular bill, that the 2nd Councilmanic District isn't a part of it, but I also have an open mind, also continue working with Otis in the future regarding the traffic calming measures that we have proposed as a community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson, and I think that's very important context to be able to provide based on what we've heard from the public and from public testimony and some of the concerns from constituents today. So thank you for offering that clarification. It's very much appreciated. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a single motion on the bills that are being considered today?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the bills numbers 220188, 220189, 220243, 220245, 220246, 220247, 220379, 220380, 220381, 220382, 220420, 220453, 220488, 220489, 220490, 220492, 220494, 220495, 220500, 220501, 220502, 220503, 220504, 220505, 220512, 220513, 220514, 220515, 220516, 220517, 220518, 220519, 220520, 220527, and 220528 be reported from this committee, including any amendments and that have been approved, and be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of these bills at the next session of council.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the bills just read by Councilmember Squilla, including any amendments that have been approved today, be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of these bills at the next council session. All those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you for your patience, colleagues. But finally, this concludes the business before the Committee of Streets and Services today. I want to thank everybody so much for your patience, for your flexibility, and most importantly, for working with me. You guys know I love my committee, but today my son graduated from elementary school, and that put a little wrinkle in our plans for today. But thank you for your support, your flexibility, especially you, Councilmember Squilla, as well as your entire team. It is very much appreciated. Thank you, everybody.
Great job. Family comes first. Great job,
Thank you.
Dave, too.
Thank you, family. I appreciate y'all.
Take care.
Everybody have a good day.